Township committee meeting. Bond order.
Huh? Yeah, I had a short. Yeah. Remember that year? When was that? We did that. You get it from the former president? I know. Oh, I saw that. Oh, no, I
know, right? Go outside.
This is Sordo.
Thank you very much.
Running away.
I checked and I only.
In accordance with the Open Public Meeting Act and state law, be advised that the notice of this meeting was made by posting on the bulletin board in town hall and forwarding to the officially designated newspapers. This meeting would take place at the Milburn Education Center at 7 p.m. on March 17, 2026. Meeting details and the draft agenda are also posted on our township website. Please all stand and move the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Cohen? Mr. Cosgrove?
Here.
Mr. Ceruto?
Here.
Mr. Stoller?
Present.
Mayor Sakamandy?
Here.
Thank you.
All right. Before we move on to the agenda, I just want to remind everyone the second read and public hearing for ordinance 2737-26, Strategic Planning Committee, and ordinance 2738-26, Cultural Diversity Committee, will not take place tonight. Both are being adjourned April 7th due to a clerical error that occurred in public notice. That said, may I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? All right. They have a motion to approve the February 17th, 2026 Township Committee regular meeting minutes.
Aye.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
No opposed, no abstentions? Okay. I'm now going to turn it over to Chief Echeverria, so he can provide the background on the motion we have slated for this evening.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor Sakamandy, Deputy Mayor Cosgrove, members of the Township Committee, Alex, Omar, colleagues, friends, and family. On behalf of the Millburn Fire Department, I thank the Township Committee and the community. It is my honor to introduce tonight's promotion candidate, Sean Slavin, whose dedication and hard work inspires us all. Sean? Firefighter Sean Slavin is being promoted from firefighter to the rank of fire captain. Sean resides in the Township of Union, New Jersey. He has collaborated with the Millburn Fire Department to respond to emergencies and serve Township residents. He has also contributed to departmental initiatives, including implementing record management systems and supporting computer and technology operations. Sean serves on the department's USAR team and has completed numerous specialized training programs throughout his career, including rapid intervention team, structural collapse rescue, trench rescue, confined space operations, and incident command system training. Before joining the Millburn Fire Department, Sean served as a combat engineer in the United States Marine Corps Reserve and Brigade Company Bravo 6 Engineer Support Battalion. He deployed to Iraq in 2003 and later became a platoon sergeant overseeing Marine training and combat engineering operations. Sean holds a Bachelor of Science in Architecture from the New Jersey Institute of Technology and a vocational degree in drafting from Union County Magnet High School. His construction background strengthens his understanding of building construction and its effects on the fire ground conditions. In addition, Sean currently serves as the president of the Millburn FMBA Local 32 and treasurer of the Millburn Relief Association. Sean is joined tonight by his wife and family and thanks them for their ongoing support and love. He also expresses gratitude to the Millburn Fire Department members for their mentorship and friendship throughout his career. Captain Slavin will be assigned to the 4th platoon as a company officer.
May I have a motion to approve resolution 26-087, which confirms the promotion?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cosgrove?
Yes.
Mr. Ceruto?
Yes.
Mr. Stoller?
Emphatic, yes.
Mayor Sakamandy?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, I will now come up to issue the oath of office. Ready? All right, please repeat after me. I state your name, do solemnly swear
I, Sean Slavin, do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of fire captain
that I will faithfully discharge the duties of fire captain,
of the Millburn Township Fire Department
Millburn Township Fire Department,
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations. All right, we will now take a brief 5-minute recess, for those of you that don't wish to stay for the entire meeting.
Well, guess what?
Yeah.
Go there. Always gonna say
Reports.
nothing there.
Oh, you want water? I got no hair.
I took over. That's the point.
I like it.
You have to leave the back door partially ajar.
Just leave it open a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much. All right. Today is St. Patrick's Day, so I want to wish a happy St. Patrick's Day to anyone who celebrates. The planning board met 2 weeks ago and approved 2 applications. One was for changes needed to accommodate a new tenant in the Trader Joe's building, and the other was to modify the lot line of the existing property. At our last meeting, during public comment on the ordinance to repeal and replace CETA, Reverend Maribel, who is here tonight, of Mount Zion AME Church, shared that while she was very grateful to finally be included in the mural project, she asked that going forward, her community not be treated as an afterthought. I took that to heart. The following day I reached out, and last week I had the privilege of visiting Mount Zion Church and sitting down with Reverend Maribel personally. Mount Zion has stood in this community since 1902, over 120 years of faith, perseverance, and service. It was one of the most meaningful conversations I've had since taking office. During that visit, I offered a personal apology to Reverend Maribel on behalf of the Township and CETA for Mount Zion's initial exclusion from the mural project. A congregation with that history, with those roots in Milburn, should never have to feel overlooked. I am glad we had that conversation, and I'm glad that we are choosing to move forward together. Reverend Maribel and I spoke about healing, about the opportunity to transform a moment of hurt into something that makes this community stronger. And I believe we are doing exactly that. The new Cultural Diversity Committee is not just an administrative change, it is a fresh start, chance to build something inclusive from the grounds up, where every voice in this township has a real seat at the table. And I'm looking forward to our next TC meeting on April 7th, when we will have the final vote on the ordinance to replace CETA with the new Cultural Diversity Committee. Finally, I was asked by a member of the Charter Study Commission to let everyone know They have a meeting this Thursday night at 8 p.m. at the Power Center. They'll be having a special meeting this Sunday at 3 p.m. at the Power Center. The Sunday meeting, residents are going to be able to come and engage in a conversation back and forth about Milburn's government. So I encourage anyone that's interested in that process to try and attend that event. Turn it over to you, Deputy Mayor Costa.
Thank you, Mayor. I have three reports. The HPC Historic Preservation, they had their regular meeting, approved several applications, everything went smoothly. The Senior Citizen Committee also had a meeting. They had their election of officers. And there was a good discussion about what services were available to seniors in the community to remove snow. Mr. Ceruto has gotten in touch with the Boy Scouts in town, and there's a meeting Thursday this week to discuss having them potentially do that for all seniors. Open space, I'll defer to Ben since you're the chair. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Good evening, Ceruto.
Good evening, great to see excellent crowd tonight, and congratulations to our new fire captain. The Shade Tree Advisory Board would like me to let y'all know that Arbor Day is Friday, April 24th, and there will be a free giveaway of tree saplings in the morning at the Public Works Yard, the dump, and also a ceremonial tree planting for America's 250th. Held in the afternoon at 4 p.m. on April 24th. Go to the Township website for more information. And if you didn't already know, Milburn has been recognized as a Tree City USA community for 47 consecutive years. So we love our trees. We want to keep our tree-lined streets and tree-lined open space. Flood Mitigation Advisory Committee, Mayor Saccomandi and I will be reconvening the Mayor's Railway River Coalition along with Mr. McDonald. Thank you, Mr. McDonald, for your assistance. And our Flood Mitigation Advisory Committee is working diligently, having strong conversations with the county as well. And we believe the Orange Reservoir bypass and retention can really become a reality. So we're planning and putting a lot of energy into leading the charge on behalf of our neighboring communities. And that starts with the Mayor's Railway River Coalition, which will meet later this month. Pedestrian Safety Advisory Board, proud to announce, that the pilot is going to be moving forward with angled parking and temporary bump outs at the corner of between Lackawanna and Whittingham Terrace. That's obviously a hot spot in our community for pedestrian safety. And so the engineering department and police are taking those first steps. So really awesome to see government in action. Holiday Lighting Committee met and we did a walkthrough through downtown. Work is ongoing. Tomorrow, Mr. McDonald and I will be working with Jersey Central Power and Light to look at our downtown telephone poles and excess wires. We're also setting up a meeting with the Department of Transportation to talk about cut-through traffic going on in town based on congestion on Route 24. 250th Committee joined Milburn 250 at the library for NJ Makers Day this Saturday, the 21st from 1 to 4 p.m. And also on Thursday, March 26th, Katie Green Eyewitness to the Revolution will take place at the library as well. Visit milburn250.org for more information on future events and ways to get involved. Planning is also underway for the Memorial Day Parade and July 4th festivities. As a reminder, we must remain vigilant and our police department is doing an amazing job keeping us all safe. The police department offers free home assessments and has strong burglary patrols. There's also a new junior police academy, which I think Mr. McDonald has now been officially open.
This will be the
second year. But we really do encourage the community, if you're interested in home assessment, take advantage of that, quiet storm right now. Our police are doing an amazing job, but let's be proactive to protect yourself and others. And that is it for me, Mayor.
Good evening, Solar.
Thank you, Mayor. Recreation Committee, the annual egg hunt. I hope people show up to this because we keep pushing it. Taylor Park scheduled for Saturday, March 21st at 10 a.m. Taylor Parkway Pathway Lights Phase 2 began, and all the new lights should be installed within the next couple weeks. Pole resurfacing and ADA ramp project also started last week and should be completed before May first. Special Improvement District, the item that we're basically working on right now is the pedestrian safety improvements on Milburn Avenue. That's between Lackawanna and Holmes, which are partially funded by our 2025 Main Street, New Jersey grant. I think Alex will talk a little bit about that later. Okay, good. Finance Committee, we had a meeting a few weeks ago where we reviewed the budget, reviewed forecast and many other metrics. The state of Milburn is in great shape with a AAA credit. BOE, Board of Education Liaison, robotics team ended up having two teams in the finals of the state tournament this weekend, Milburn versus Milburn. Milburn won, so that's a great celebration for Milburn, recognition of our robotics team. We had 16 national merit finalists, which is incredible. That's the extraordinary accomplishment for dedication, talent, and academic excellence of all our students. The Adams family is now playing at the brand new auditorium, the refurbished auditorium at the high school. Heard it was fantastic. Everybody try to drop into that. Washington Schools recognized by Random Acts of Kindness for its Distinguished Kindness School. Celebrating voices through the African American Read-In. On February 27th, Milburn Middle School hosted its third annual African American Read-In, part of a national initiative launched in 1990 to celebrate literacy and Black History Month. It was led by Core 7 and Wave, peer leaders. The event features students sharing powerful works by African American authors, along with original poem by student Maya Rosenblatt. Milburn's speech and debate team got second in the state. Congratulations to everyone who placed. I'm not going to go through all of them, but it was a fantastic showing. Black Student Union hosted an inspiring career panel at the MHS Library as part of the Week of Action, bringing together students and professionals for a powerful conversation. What else we have here? Moving on, we did not joint facilities, no update at this time. Open Space Tax Fund Advisory Committee, what Mr. Cosgrove was alluding to. We had a robust discussion on the Fields project. It was probably one of the best discussions we've had to date. Everyone was professional, competent on the issue, inquisitive and open-minded. There was a vote put forth to back the Open Space Trust Fund Advisory Committee for the project to turf the fields. The final tally was 5-3-1, 5-4-3 against 1 abstention. And just so you guys know how that committee is made up. It's 2 committee members, David and myself, 3 resident members, a rec commission member, environmental commission member, and a historical commission member. We are also working on the list, a submission list for new projects. I know there's about 8 to 10 in the works. We're also putting that up on the website. All of the website's good to go for those forms. Affordable housing, I'll defer to council. That's my reports, Mayor.
Mr. Stoller, I believe the Open Space Trust Fund Advisory Board made a recommendation that the 25% of their annual.
That's correct. We'll get into that later.
Okay. Just wanted to, that's what the vote was about. All right, Business Administrator McDonald.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a reminder about the budget schedule and a slight change to that schedule. On April 7th, we'll be introducing a municipal budget. On April 23rd, we'll be having our normal public information session on the budget at the Milburn Library starting at 7 p.m. And on May 5th, the projected adoption of the budget, or public hearing and adoption of the budget. Just a quick update on the cell tower on JFK. That has been out there for a little while. I think with the Township Committee approved that process last year. Unfortunately, we're at this point, we are trying to get power to the site at JFK, working with New Jersey American Water and Diamond Communications, who is the cell tower constructor, to get that power there. And so most likely going to require an easement across some New Jersey American Water property, and then across JFK to power that site. But working on it, it's in progress, and I think in process, and I think we'll see some additional progress soon on that. I just want to provide the community an update that is still ongoing. The Short Hills train station, as some may be aware, the township received a grant in the amount of $479,000 for safe routes to transit. We've been, working on a potential plan for that eastbound side of the Short Hills train station. We are looking to have a public information session and, discussion on April 13th at 6:30 at the Melbourne Free Public Library. All of this will be advertised to the public as well, whether through the Melbourne message, the website, social media, etc. Tomorrow, free parking, 1 hour, free 1 hour parking, better be careful with that. Free 1 hour parking in the deck will start. It's been, the pay stations have been reprogrammed, their signage by the pay stations as well as the variable message board will be outside of the deck, indicating to those visitors that wish to park there for their shopping needs, can receive 1 hour of parking. It is important to note that you still need to put in your license plate. So be sure to take advantage of that. I know at this point now that we're crawling out of winter, the roads are in pretty interesting shape. DPW has been working hard, getting out there to fill in potholes, to repair some roads and where they're needed, even coming in on Saturday to get some additional work done. They will continue to do that until, it's done. We are also in the process of evaluating the road system for 2026 in terms of what roads will be done. We've just recently done a study through IMS that gives each road a pavement condition index, and that's how we make our decisions on what roads are to be repaved and scheduled for paving. We do have some in our network that are very poor and some that are poor, so obviously those will take priority and precedent for the 2026 program. We also have some additional 2025 roads that are carrying over to this year that will be done starting in June, or end of May, June, and those can be found on our website under the project listing page, under government on the township website. And just to touch a little bit on the pedestrian safety that's taking place between Lackawanna and Holmes, we are going to be setting up a temporary sort of test of that angled parking as well as the bump outs at Whittingham and Holmes. The project scope is going to be between Lackawanna and Holmes. And so the businesses have been alerted, they've been notified of the changes coming. Tomorrow, between 9 and 11, the left lane of Milburn Avenue will be closed down for markouts and for work done by DPW and the police department. And we hope to have those installed and in place at the end of March for a trial period. And in the time, we will start putting together bid specifications for a more permanent project in that area. But the businesses seem to be excited about the addition of 4 additional parking spaces in that area. So those are my updates. Thank you, Mayor.
Attorney Cantor?
Thank you, Mayor. On March 9th, the Township Committee held a special meeting which was dedicated to approving legislation required to implement our 4th round Fair housing obligations. Several ordinances and resolutions were passed that day. Each of those were uploaded to the courts by the March 16th deadline. As part of that submission, we requested a hearing from the court, which is what is required. Based on our submissions to the court, we firmly believe that Township Milburn will get its 4th round immunity, which will give us immunity through July of 2035. Once we get that hearing, I will continue to update the public. And that I have no further updates now.
All right, public comment. When invited to speak, to offer your comments, please come to the lectern, clearly state your name, and whether you are a Milburn resident and or property or business owner. Please do not provide your full address and name, as our meetings are recorded and readily available for the public. To help facilitate the orderly meeting and let all be heard, speakers shall limit their comments to 1 3-minute session. You'll be prompted when there is 30 seconds remaining. A reminder, this is not a time for dialogue or to debate a matter. This is a time during our business meeting the public offer comments. I'll now open the public comment period. I think we're going to start with Stephen first. Done.
I don't have anyone's hands up in Zoom.
Okay, we'll revisit that. Anyone from the audience? Please. Go to the lectern.
You want to give a reminder to Zoom
Yes, if you are on Zoom and you wish to make a public comment, please use the raise hand.
Yeah.
You do have one?
You wanna?
Yeah, let's do that.
He's muted and, okay.
So whoever's online, just raise your hand, if you could unmute and turn on the video.
There you go. Sorry about that, Mayor. Nick Romano, 37-year resident of Milburn. I'm following up on Committeeman Stoller's remarks on the Open Space Trust Fund Advisory Committee. I would like to reread my remarks that were read into the record by Committeeman Stoller at that last meeting. Thank you. My name is Nick Romano. I have served on the Recreation Commission for the past 20 years and currently serve as its chair. However, today I am speaking only for myself. I am saddened that the high school field project has turned into a political football. For the record, I am 100% in favor of this project. For the past 2 decades, Commissioner Chris Drucker and I have worked to secure more playable fields for the youth of our community. No one can argue the fact that we need more fields and better fields. As a longtime baseball, softball, and soccer coach, I have traveled throughout the state, and quite frankly, Milburn's fields do not come close to those of many other towns. As our recreation director, Chris Meyer, often says, we are program rich but field poor. This project is needed and long overdue. Nothing but good things happen when our children are given the opportunity to participate in sports. As a coach, I often use sports as a metaphor for life. Sports teach humility, teamwork, dedication, competition, sacrifice, leadership, and accountability. They teach you how to get back up when you are knocked down and how sometimes you can learn more from a loss than from a win. The Open Space Trust Fund is a great way to help fund this project. The money's already there. Taxpayers do not need to be asked again. They already voted for it and approved it by an overwhelming majority. Many residents, including myself, supported the referendum because we believed it could help address our community's need for more field space. Years ago, supporters of the Open Space Trust Fund said it would provide our town with opportunities like those provided by the county's Open Space Trust Fund. However, there is no county-owned property in Milburn where the County of Essex could build ball fields. Commissioner Drucker and I have explored those options in the past. The county has used its trust fund to build some of the best fields in the state, many of which are turf fields. When the Environmental Commission presented the Open Space Trust Fund to the Recreation Commission, it was clearly implied that these funds could be used for field improvements. When residents voted on this referendum, it was also understood that the funds could be used for projects like this. Hopefully, they do not create a bait and switch situation now. Our community is far too informed and engaged for that.
That's your time.
There is no reason not to vote yes on this project. And there's no statute.
Need to take them off?
Yes, Nick, if you're still there, we had to cut you off when the timer ran out. Everyone.
You may want to remind, so we're muted. I think he may have had his YouTube or Zoom playing off his laptop.
Yeah, so to anyone that's on Zoom, if you're gonna make public comment, make sure that you aren't simultaneously watching the YouTube stream Otherwise, there'll be feedback and it'll cause echoes. So, Reverend.
Yes, good evening, everyone. My name is Pastor Aisha Marable. I am the pastor at Mount Zion A&E Church, that is at 54 Church Street. And I wanted to begin by expressing my heartfelt thank you to Mayor Sakamandi. I really appreciate your visiting Mount Zion this past week. Your presence was both encouraging and inspiring. And it meant a great deal to our congregation when I told them on Sunday that you were there. You got a full applause, although you were not there to receive it. Our mission in our community is to truly be a part. And so thank you, thank you, thank you. During our visit, we discussed the rich history of Mount Zion and the importance of preserving our sacred space and the opportunities that exist when we move forward in unity and collaboration. I also had the pleasure of meeting with Jackie Lieberberg this week, and together we explored ways that our work, faith, arts, and culture can intersect in jazzy ways to bring the community together. These conversations, both of them, really reaffirmed that partnerships are essential to creating a vibrant and inclusive Millburn. This month, we are celebrating our 2nd anniversary of Jesus and Jazz, yay! Which has grown to welcome over 1,500 people who love jazz. This program, along with our other offerings, communion and choirs on the first Sunday, blues and blessings on the second Sunday, poetry and praise, which we just had, and our minister was a 92-year-old who brought the word without any notes in front of her. And we have, of course, every 4th Sunday, Jesus and Jazz. This arts and culture and worship and arts has created a space where faith, culture, and community meet. And these programs have drawn new people into Millburn. They celebrate diversity and strengthen connections across our town. And quite frankly, many come in and say, we didn't know you were here. And we say, I know, we're here and we're gonna stay and we are welcomed here. So moving forward, we are committed to building stronger voices, shared vision, and meaningful partnerships with the Township. The Cultural Diversity Committee, we look forward to being a part of, and all who care about the future of Millburn. Together, we can ensure that everyone is seen, everyone is heard and valued, and that the beauty of this community continues to flourish. Thank you again, Mayor Sakamandi. I appreciate you and the Township Committee for your leadership, walking alongside us. Thank you.
Good evening, members of the Township Committee, Jackie Benjamin Lieberberg. I just want to mention that several community partners are not mentioned in the new CDC committee. The Paper Mill Playhouse representative, a BOE liaison, an art advisory representative, and in years past, Explore Millburn Short Hills representative, as well as senior citizen advisory representative. In the spirit of engagement and inclusion, I recommend that you make room for these art and community organizations. They are a vital part of the fabric of Millburn. I also want to mention that if in fact we missed any organizations for the 250 mural, I assure you that this was not intentional, but an oversight. I'm extremely proud of the good work that we have accomplished, and it will be a sincere privilege to work with such dedicated volunteers, which will be included in the new CDC committee. Thank you.
Good evening, Kenny Gammon, I live in Short Hills. So, my name is Kenny Gammon, I represent the Millburn Soccer Club. We have about 600 players from elementary through high school in town. Not here really to talk about sports, I'm here to talk about kind of a systemic infrastructure failure. Right now, Millburn has 16% field deficit. In any other area, called schools or roads, that would be treated as an emergency. But in recreation, we've normalized it, making do. Field access has become a zero-sum game. Recreation programs, school teams, town clubs are all competing for the same limited space, and our kids are the ones paying the price. Let's address the core issue. Some say we want fields but not turf. In a perfect world, I'd agree. but in reality, that's not feasible. The high school backfields sit on wetlands and simply don't drain. Even advanced grass fields can only handle about 20 to 24 hours of use per week. Milburn's demand exceeds 65 hours. We're asking our fields to do 3 times what's biologically possible. Choosing grass means continuing a system that cannot meet the town needs. We've explored alternatives. There's no viable plan B. Voting against this bond means continuing the shortage and limiting opportunities for thousands of kids. On health and environmental concerns, we take them seriously. But current data shows modern turf systems fall within strict safety standards and new designs significantly reduce environmental impact. Meanwhile, maintaining grass fields and wetlands requires constant chemicals and intervention just to keep them playable. For the first time in years, all stakeholders, the Board of Education, the Recreation Department, and the Open Space Trust are aligned. Funding is identified. Studies are complete. What remains is the decision to act. I'm asking you guys to say yes. Yes to reliable fields. Yes to consistent, safe playing surfaces. Yes to investing in our kids instead of managing their disappointment. Every delay is another lost season that we can't give back. This is the only sustainable solution. Please move this bond ordinance forward. Thank you.
Diane Egla, lifelong resident, former mayor, 2-term township committee member. So I do have some institutional knowledge that I feel compelled to share. Mr. Saccomundi, it is not true that Mr. Stoller was the first TC member to meet with the county in over a decade. Mr. McDonald and I met in Jody's office specifically to address flooding, among other issues. In fact, I met with Jody on numerous occasions, as did Mayor Prupis and Mayor Romano. So through those efforts, we secured meaningful projects and consistently worked to bring more service to our town. What originally brought me into public life was the proposal to build a 90-foot concrete dam for the reservation. This plan would have raised the road by more than 20 feet, destroyed thousands of acres, and required the removal of tens of thousands of trees. It would have shut down the reservation road for 2 or 3 years, forcing all traffic onto only 2 roads, Old Short Hills Road and Wyoming Avenue. The Army Corps of Engineers, the state, the county, and surrounding municipalities all opposed it. It carried an enormous cost and ultimately failed the benefit cost analysis. Now, Mr. Bombera, you're proposing a new concept, a 70-foot earthen dam. Where would this be located? Who would fund it? And I watched the last meeting. And why do you believe surrounding towns, the county and the state would support the destruction of the reservation when they previously rejected a similar proposal? Turning to CETA. When I was mayor in 2019, I conceived this committee. Mr. McDonald and I developed the acronym, and we formally established the committee by resolution, appointing its initial members. The vision for the iconic wheels came from my observation of the center pavement of the Paper Mill Playhouse. Then Assistant Business Administrator Jimmy Comsey successfully sourced the wheels, ensuring they were suitable for painting and durable for outdoor conditions. My goal was to have the project completed in time to launch the first Cherry Blossom Festival in Taylor Park. The vision was wonderful. Following year, Jackie Lieberberg assumed the role of chair, and to her credit, CETA has expanded significantly and taken on more inclusive initiatives. I commend her dedication and tireless work. Now, I wrote this before I realized you took away those 2 second reads, so I'm going to ask you anyway, Mr. Saccomundi, why were you so intent on dismantling the success? Why remove the A, the art? And why were you looking to bypass standard procedure by moving to second reading without the customary reading in between? This is not an emergency measure. It appeared vindictive, punitive, and frankly reminiscent of Doji. Mr. Stoller, if my decision to leave the Democratic Party was your call to action, let me be clear. The party did not support my independent approach. When I was denied my opportunity to run, I chose to run as an independent, not as a Republican. I have never taken off my Democratic mantle. Mr. Ceruto, why were you so offended to point out you're all white males? It is your party that advocates for strict adherence to your assigned gender at birth.
Get your facts straight.
Good evening, Lobby, Milburn. I'm not here to defend what Diane Engel just said, but I have a little comment. for anyone to say that the TC is all white male, I ran for township committee and I did not win. So if I had won, it wouldn't be an all white male. There will be diversity on the township committee. Is Melbourne ready for someone like myself? I was not put into office. So who are we to blame? The township committee for winning or the people who vote for them to put them there? So let's be clear on what's happening here. I was a Democrat before I ran as a Republican. If I go back to being a Democrat, I will still believe what I believe. So diversity, when it comes to CETA, is a problem. So there's no Republican or Democratic way to pave a road. You just do the job. So this is not what I come here to talk about. I've written my notes before, but I just have to say that. We need to stop playing with residents' intelligence. CETA is not inclusive. Someone like myself that looked like me was not placed on CETA. And everyone knew me. I sat on the school board for 4 years. I served for 4 years. If you want to reach Oyinowolabi, you know where to get me. You know where to find me. Everyone in town knows the name Oyin. Now back to my reading, if I have enough time. Again, my name is Oyinowolabi, Melbourne. I want to begin by reaffirming the concerns I raised at the last Township Committee meeting regarding the omission of the Black American community from Melbourne 250 mural. I stand firmly by those remarks. That incident, to me, was not an isolated oversight. It exposed a deeper structural issue in how this township approaches representation and inclusion. I want to be clear. I'm not here to create conflict. I'm here because accountability matters. And because this township cannot afford to repeat the same pattern when an entire community is left out of a major historical project, the problem is not individual, it is systemic. And systemic issues require systemic solutions. That is why I remain a firm believer that restructuring is necessary, particularly with CETA. In its current form, CETA cannot claim to represent the full community when African Americans are not part of its membership. A committee tasked with advising on diversity, equity, and inclusion must itself reflect diversity, equity, and inclusion.
When, you'll have to finish your second public comment.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tom Holman. I spoke to you all at the March 3rd meeting and told you that I've been appointed to the CETA committee after living here in this town for 38 years. Very pleased to be appointed to the committee, disappointed that the committee was being disbanded, being dissolved. As some of you on the township committee are aware, I've been working with CETA Chair Jackie Lieberberg since really part of the year to try to put together an inaugural Melbourne Jazz Festival. We've been trying to determine whether it's a feasible project, and Mrs. Lieberberg has been a whirlwind of support. I want to say that I look forward to working with Reverend Maribel and her church. As you, I'm sure know, she is one of the local experts on jazz music, and I look forward to gaining her expertise, working with her to try to develop that festival. So I'm here, actually to ask for some clarification. A number of us, 22 people, are on the CETA committee, which I think has a couple of weeks more of existence before we're officially dissolved. I understood the mayor to say at the last meeting, I think that he would be considering appointing all of the present CETA members to the new Cultural Diversity Committee, if I understood him correctly. I think it would be appropriate this evening to clarify whether that is the case or whether the 22 members need to make a new application. So there's no interruption in the work of this committee, and I'm a little biased that I'd like to see my project go forward uninterrupted, and so the appointment of a full committee would be in the best interest, I feel, of the township, because I think we're gonna bring a lot of value to the township if we get this festival established. So I hope that clarification could be made by the mayor later tonight. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Donald Jaffe. As a resident of Maplewood, I have an ongoing interest in assuring the safety of roads for both bicyclists and cars in both Milburn and in Maplewood. First, I'd like to express my appreciation for completion of the repaving of Glen Avenue from Brookside to Old Shorters Road. That area, that piece of road was very, very treacherous, so I much appreciate that. And also, I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to address two additional sections of road that require some attention. I would like, as a bicyclist and motorist who travels these roads on an almost daily basis, I note that they are in pretty bad shape and are particularly dangerous for bicyclists. Complete repaving and not only pothole repair is required for both roads. First, there is a long-standing problem with Glen Avenue beyond what was done before, from Myrtle Avenue to Wyoming. I note that pothole repair has recently been completed on this section, but this repair is still inadequate to address this dangerous section of road. Secondly, Jefferson Avenue from Washington Avenue to Lake Road is in terrible shape and is particularly dangerous for bicyclists. I know quite often when I go through there and I use that as a typical route, I have to switch to the other side of the road because I just cannot travel on that section. So I would really appreciate these two sections of road to be looked at and maybe put in as in the 2026 period. I sent a copy of this to the committee, to the town council, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Janet Pizar, third generation resident for almost 73 years. It seems that we have a conundrum of semantics. The Township Committee Mayor stated that there will not be a dissolution of the CETA committee when the ordinance clearly states it. A Township Committee member stated that existing members would slide into the new CDC, but it has also been reported that Jackie would be allowed to stay until the unveiling of the 250 mosaic. Township Committee members stated that the dissolution is not political, but the, quote, "We've had complaints," unquote, reported at the February 17th Township Committee meeting were from new CETA members after having just attended a very first meeting on February 4th. Oh, 3 new Republican appointments. And one being the chair of the Milburn Republican Committee, and another one being the husband of the mayor, but this is not political. I quote from the ordinance, paragraph 4. It has come to the Township Committee's attention that CETA has been chronically deficient in its record keeping and organizational duties, but it's not punitive. Just as long as we know it's not political and it's not punitive. 2 or 3 newly appointed Republican committee member complaints versus 24 testimonies of Jackie's outstanding achievements and long-term positive working relationships in CETA from the CETA committee members themselves and the public. You 3 Republican committee members are extraordinarily bright, and you're capable of terrific works in this township. So of all the options and all the possibilities that existed, this was really your best remedy? Because this is a bona fide scandal, and it will be a blemish on your tenure on the township committee. Is this what you want for your legacy? Because if you do not, there is still an opportunity to preclude further political scandal and derail a debacle. So we've heard both sides, both scenarios. Will Jackie slide over into the CDC committee? Or will she be expelled from her committee service after the June 12th unveiling of the 250? Tonight, you owe us an absolute answer of clarity.
Alice Van Barra, long-term resident of Short Hills. Before I speak on the topic I prepared a speech for, Diane Eckler, you call me out personally, you lie through your teeth. Get your facts straight before you start talking. You're absolutely wrong. I'm gonna leave it to Committeeman Stoller and Committeeman Ceruto, who know what my plan is, and it's not what you said, okay? So I'll leave them to answer that. I don't wanna use my time for that, and I hope I'll be granted extra time and finish what I came with. I'm a chemical engineer with over 50 years experience, including polymer process R&D. I understand synthetics, how materials behave in the environment, what is inert, what is toxic, what persists, what breaks down, solubilities, dispersions, diffusion rates. I also serve on the Flood Mitigation Advisory Committee, so I'm familiar with stormwater management and sensitivity to our local waterways. There are advantages and disadvantages to both natural and synthetic formats for the fields, but this discussion needs to be grounded on current science and facts, not outdated assumptions, looking at the complete picture, not hand-picked opinions or outdated hype. Many of the concerns raised by the critics, safety, health, and environmental effects are based on older systems, crumb rubber infill, less advanced materials. That is not what is being proposed today. The technology has evolved, modern systems use significantly improved materials, infill-free or organic infill options, designed with far greater environmental and safety considerations. Even small details such as the shape and thickness profile of the artificial grass blades have been optimized. Moreover, critics of synthetic turf ignore the very real drawbacks of the natural turf fields. First, the usage difference is undeniable. It takes roughly 3 grass fields to equal the playing time of 1 synthetic field. Millburn simply does not have enough fields nor the land to build them on to meet the demand. Second, natural grass requires constant maintenance. Fields must be mowed, often twice a week. We have had extensive debate last year about gas-powered equipment, yet those same emissions and particulates are part of maintaining the grass fields. In addition, fertilizers, pesticides, fungicides, herbicides are applied to keep fields playable unless we are willing to accept mud, weeds, and unsafe conditions. Importantly, the Van Winkle branch of the Warway River runs less than 200 feet behind the high school fields. Chemicals do not stay in place, they leach into our waterways. Now consider over this 30-year life of the turf field, multiply the mowing emissions and chemical applications by 30 years.
Sorry, Mr. Van Barra, we'll have you share a statement.
I'm very much in favor of the artificial.
Jean Pasternak, I just want to first say about the roads, I hope Constant is on the list. I think the road, it looks like it. I don't know what it is, but it's lots of potholes, so thank you. Let me start first with a simple point. Millburn's field shortage is not new. It's existed for over a decade. Our students, families, and community groups have been managing overcrowded, overused, and often unplayable fields for years. At this point, delay is not a neutral option. It is a decision to continue failing to meet a known need. I support moving this project forward now. The demand is real, the usage levels are well understood, and the status quo is not acceptable. That said, I want to address the concerns raised by Millburn for climate action. Those concerns should be taken seriously. The questions about environmental impact, materials, and long-term sustainability are appropriate and should continue to be addressed. But let's be equally clear, those concerns are not a justifiable reason for stopping or postponing this project. They are a reason to proceed with rigor and transparency. As this project advances, the township should continue to share information openly about materials, environmental safeguards, and long-term planning so the public understands exactly what is being built and why. That is how you build trust while still delivering results. What we should not do is reopen the fundamental question of whether to act. That question has already been answered by years of unmet demand. Millburn does not need more delay, it needs execution. We can and should deliver fields that meet our community's needs while also meeting high environmental and safety standards. Those goals are not in conflict unless we allow them to be. So I urge the committee, move forward, do so expeditiously, and continue addressing concerns transparently as the project progresses. Our community has waited long enough. Thank you.
Good evening, committee members. My name is Jennifer Abwezadine. I'm a Millburn resident, a mother of two, and I serve on the board of the Millburn Soccer Club. I want to thank the committee for bringing this initiative to the table. I'm here tonight to talk about utility. Right now, we have a taxpayer-funded asset, our high school fields, that is effectively out of order for a huge portion of the year. Between rainouts, drainage issues, and the early sunset, we are leaving hours of usable time on the table. By moving forward with this tarp and lighting proposal, we are doing three things. Eliminating downtime. We stopped the field closed signs. Turf doesn't need recovery time, meaning we effectively double the playable hours for our kids and adult leagues overnight. Fixing the foundation. We have chronic drainage issues that are damaging the landscape. We can either keep paying for temporary fixes on failing grass, or we can be fiscally responsible and install a modern, permanent drainage solution now. Modernizing access. Adding lights creates a second shift. It allows our working parents who can't get to a field at 3:30 p.m. to actually participate in community sports after 5 p.m. The science is in. The March 2026 California Office of Environmental Health Hazard Assessment findings confirm these fields are safe for our children. This isn't just about sports. It's about making sure our town's infrastructure actually works for the people paying for it. I urge you to move forward with the project as originally planned. Let's stop ignoring a physical problem and start providing real value to our Millburn families. Thank you.
Hi, how are you? Good evening, Mayor, members of the Township Committee. My name is Orges Roca. I've been a Millburn resident since 2013. And I also happen to be a member of the Millburn Soccer Club, board member. I'm here to talk about the field issue. The issue is not theoretical for us. It's something our families live every single season. Our kids live practices, games, and opportunities because our fields simply can't keep up. Even days after a storm, fields remain closed. Schedules of the families are constantly disrupted, and our players are the ones who feel the impact. We have a real shortage of playing space, and it's holding our community back. This proposal is not about preference, it's about solving a problem we've had for many years. Turf fields provide reliable, consistent access. They allow our kids to play when they're scheduled to play. They allow programs to grow instead of being limited. They give the community the capacity to play with the needs. These are not just school fields, they're community fields. They're used by hundreds of families across multiple sports, across all age groups. This is shared infrastructure, and investing is an investment in the entire community. And I want to be very clear. Supporting the project doesn't mean we don't care about the environment or safety. We do, deeply, but we also care about our kids having a place to play, to be active, to be part of the team. Those things matter too. Right now, we have an opportunity to finally address the issue in a meaningful way. The Open Space Trust Fund Advisory Committee has done the work and made a recommendation. I respectfully ask that you move the project forward and don't let this opportunity slip away. Our kids and our community have waited long enough. Now it's your time to act. Thank you for your time and your service, and thank you to all the kids that are.
Good evening, Jerry Collin, Milburn resident and one of the newer members of CETA. I want to talk tonight about permanent monuments. In 1869, the Transcontinental Railroad was completed at Promontory Summit, Utah, one of the greatest achievements in US history. To celebrate, a photograph was taken, a permanent public record of that moment. Just some background. 12 to 15,000 Chinese laborers worked on that railroad. They blasted through the Sierra Nevada, lowered off with cliffs on ropes to set explosive charges. The difference between life and death, a matter of how quickly they were pulled back up. As many as 1,000 died. Amidst the blasted rock lie their remains, the steep human cost of American progress. In that photograph taken to celebrate that achievement, not a single Chinese laborer is recognized. A permanent public record of exclusion. I thought about that photograph when I watched the America 250 mural project unfold inside CETA. Another permanent public art piece, another celebration of American community. And once again, people who sacrificed for this community, who have worshiped here and raised families here for generations, were not in it. BAMs had been reached through the wrong individual. Mount Zion AME Church was overlooked entirely. Yet the self-anointed chair saw fit to bestow upon herself a tile bearing her own name, and was reluctant to make room for BAMs and Mount Zion, even as other organizations had as many as 7 tiles. History does not have to repeat itself. That is why the new members pushed back. There is real harm when marginalized groups are not treated as stakeholders from the very start. To call that a clerical error is to intentionally downplay something gravely serious. It is symptomatic of a deeper problem, whether malicious or not, to gatekeep who is in and who is out. That is not a paperwork issue. That is a culture of disengagement from the very communities CETA was created to serve. A failure not only of governance, but of inclusion. At the last Township Committee meeting, a supporter of the de facto chair called Mount Zion's exclusion inconsequential. The self-anointed chair did not challenge or renounce that characterization. Instead, she told us it was her understanding that minutes, agendas, and an elected chair were not required. It wasn't a mistake. She had unilaterally decided the rules did not apply to her, and then she accused the Township Committee's actions of being malicious. Note, the people who were nearly written out of this monument did not use that word. Reverend Marable did not. BAMS did not. Only one person used that word, the one who believed the rules did not apply to her. 250 years ago, we declared independence as a nation precisely because we rejected a monarchy. No one gets to anoint themselves chair of a public body, then write themselves into a permanent monument at the expense of marginalized groups. Correcting real harm done to the community is not malicious. It is exactly the kind of healing our town needs. Shame on anyone who attempts to portray it otherwise.
My name is Shepard Feldman, I'm in the poet section. I know Reverend Maribel more than 20 years. It was I who questioned why they weren't included. If anyone wants to get blamed, blame me. I'm not a Republican, I'm a long-term Democrat. Understand that. The context that we're talking about today, the community, I urge everyone to look at the Charter Study Commission's last 2-3 presentations in the interviews. There's an education we have to understand that explains the problems that we have in this community. I've submitted heads up emails to the council. None of you have responded to my questions. I urge everyone to read today's David French's op-ed in the New York Times talking about hate. Now, hate is dividing our whole country. I want to go, I support the field. The only question is, let's make sure we do it properly through municipal financing, and our agreements allow us to seek open space funds from other organizations. As to the regular consent agenda, I have questions. Because of these snow courts that we've had, are we going to amortize them over 5 years? On the buildings, there is a payment for a little bit more than $172,000 to Max Cali for a tax settlement that came back from 2019. Do we have any exposure for 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, and 2024? There's a contract with the Shover Group to do cutting grass. What field are they cutting? You know, they get like, I think, a price of $1,400 per cut. Is that per cut just for one field? Are we talking about, are they gonna be doing Gerald Park, Short Hills, Park, what are they doing? Because you can't tell. I am being concerned, because tonight you have first readings on two ordinances. One will involve a sale of property and the other one for easement. We have a custom of not attaching the exhibits that you're approving. One of the material terms is what is the price that someone's paying for? What is the monetary consideration? David Cosgrove, today is St. Patrick's Day. When Tom Barrett issued his annual report of the famous, most important Irishman, one of them was Judge Kennedy, who I appear for. And Judge Kennedy scolded Orange, he gave him a dog-bite warning. You have to look at the four corners of a legislation. Can a court determine what the terms are from them? We can't, as to these two proposed ordinances. As to the three first reading ordinances, why are we on an accelerated schedule? Why are we doing the two cycle schedule that the hearing be on April 21st? Why are they coming back on April 7th? I've talked about that, but hopefully you consider my questions and I'll come back later. Thank you.
Hi, Tom Stockford. I live in the Wyoming section. I've been a resident for over 30 years. About the artificial turf field that we're considering at the high school. I realize it could get used more because of the hours, but I don't see it as the creation of green space that which would provide more fields for the children to play on after school. I'm sure some of you are aware that the state is considering prohibiting these type of fields at schools. And I think they may grandfather it, and of course they may not. If they don't, I don't want it to be like downtown where we tore up our curbs and then didn't like them and tore them up again several years later. So there are obviously concerns for children to play on these fields. I don't know if anyone here has played on an artificial turf field, but there's polymer underneath it, the substrate that provides some cushion, and you end up with this all over your clothes, on your skin, and I'm sure some of it goes inside of you. And since we know that microplastics are a problem, I think you should reconsider it. And maybe we need to encourage some sports that don't require fields. Thank you very much.
Phil Kirsch, Milburn resident. Once again tonight, we've heard an argument, this time regarding CETA, based on some assumptions of ill intent. But that's not what we're going to talk about right now. I was happy to see that the second reading of the ordinance to dissolve CETA has been postponed, even if for clerical reasons, since this will give members of the committee more time to consider their votes. To consider, for example, the value of public input, that it is no disgrace to change an opinion based upon consideration of the desires and thoughtful input of a significant number of their constituents. Otherwise, what is the value of public meetings or public comment? Also, time to consider the long-term consequences of an action that will be perceived as political in nature in an already divisive environment. Furthermore, is it truly necessary for the Township Committee to directly choose the chair, vice chair, and secretary of a new group? Is this being done for all advisory committees? And I don't think so, from what I've seen. If so, it may be viewed as a power grab by the committee and truly undemocratic. If not, why only for this group? So I hope that all of you will sincerely consider the concerns expressed tonight and at the last meeting, so that the second reading and open hearing on April 7th will be more than just a previously determined outcome. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Carol Kirsch. I'm a 44-year resident of the Wyoming section. I'm very happy to hear tonight about the appropriate expansion of the diversity and inclusion in the tile project that will be coming up. But I just don't understand the solution that is being proposed about the CETA committee. At the time that the committee is actively working on a very special upcoming 250th anniversary project. And especially at a time when there is already so much anxiety and political discomfort all around us. It would seem to me that simply requiring the CETA committee to start taking notes, and with the addition of what's come about now, it would be a logical solution to just have for including notes, advising the committee to include notes. Although I personally believe that individuals on each of the committees should be the ones who decide who amongst them will serve in the various roles on their committee. If the Township Committee believes that they should be the ones to make these decisions, I believe it should be for all committees and only be initiated at a January reorganization meeting. I have been regularly attending Township Committee meetings for approximately 20 years, and while meetings have not always seemed totally apolitical, I have always appreciated the absence of political partisanship when it has not been present. This proposed ordinance has, to many of us, an uncomfortable quality of partisanship, which I believe, for the sake of our community, our Township Committee should attempt to avoid at all costs. Thank you.
Hi, Chris Heinrichs, Millburn resident. You all know that I've been a staunch supporter of the field since forever. So I just wanted to come up and reiterate that one more time. I don't think I need to go through the reasons. I think they've all been brought up and pushed back on successfully. I definitely encourage, do not delay. That would be a disservice to all the kids who are looking forward to these fields to correct our deficit. I would like to say I am a staunch environmentalist. I actually bet my career on it once, working for a startup that did recycling and other green action. So it's not just lip service when I say that. I do appreciate everyone who came out and spoke for artificial turf, the hazards, the causes. That makes us better when those questions are brought up. I wish they were brought up earlier, not a last minute effort to delay the project, but I do appreciate it. I think they've been dealt with. There are concerns, along with concerns of injury, but I do think the benefits far outweigh the costs. And I encourage hastily approval, moving on to construction and getting this field in service as soon as possible. Why I have another minute, I'd just like to address a hot topic. I know nothing about CETA, but just coming to the meetings in the last few times, seems to me that it's not a question of the good work they've done or the efforts of the chairperson over the last several years. That all seems great. It seems like the plan is to continue that work under new form. Seems to be there's some characterization of some of the issues as in, mere paperwork. Oh, we didn't take minutes. Let's just correct that. Seems like it's much more than that. There's willful neglect here amongst the leadership of that committee, amongst the township committee members who were appointed to supervise that committee. At some point, it should have been called out that this was not going. There was plenty of time for corrective action. So a deeper remedy is called for. So I applaud your courage because you had to know that this was not going to be a popular thing to do this. It seems like the overall goal is to strengthen this and make it right. So I appreciate your efforts in doing it. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Bill Brazel. I live in South Mountain. I'm a frequent softball coach and the chair of the Environmental Commission. On St. Patrick's Day, my people and many others wear green. I'm here about the green. Although it may not be clear to some, we all share the same goals. More playable hours for our kids, better fields for our athletes and our community programs. That is something we all want. My daughters play softball on those fields and have had games canceled for excessive sogginess. The Environmental Commission has never been opposed to increasing playable hours. We are parents too. We're asking the town to get there responsibly, please, by doing an independent analysis of the three main options for improvement. One is engineered natural grass with subsurface drainage. The second is hybrid or reinforced turf systems. And the third is fully synthetic turf with the infill materials that have now been proposed, organic or infill free. I spoke recently to Scott Bills, who is a certified sports field manager. Some of you may know. He has an 8 to 10 year history working on these very fields, the Milburn High School fields. He noted that it's true that you can plow snow off of artificial turf, whereas you can't do that with grass. So turf does allow kids to play outside in February if that is something that they would like to do. Those otherwise snow-covered days do indeed raise the average playable hours of artificial turf. For the rest of the year, though, he said, if we were to properly manage those fields, if we regraded them, added some sand, and regularly aerated them, those fields would be every bit as playable. He said that engineering and managing the fields that we have would cost half or less than the artificial turf. Our town polled just 60 people in order to assert that the entire town wants artificial turf fields. More than 6 times that number have signed a petition asking the town to do a genuine analysis of the costs and benefits of engineered natural grass as well. We are asking the town to do the best it can to keep Milburn green. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Venkat Bala, long-term resident. This is in support of the artificial turf that is going to be put in place. And as a material science graduate degree holder, I can say that there are a number of benefits associated with it. First of all is low maintenance. Second of all is related to the water conservation. We are on the lower riparian or riparian of the Baziak River. So we do have flooding as per the FEMA maps. So that being said, we need to have artificial turf as compared to natural that is going to have a runoff. We saw that during Ida and also previously during Sandy. Most importantly, if you look at this room itself, you can see a lot of plastics and components that are incorporated in it and how they have become part of our day-to-day life. So, and these plastics also comes from petroleum-based products. These are not something that are coming out of synthetic, but rather they are petroleum-based products. So that being said, going back to natural turf would be resetting the clock by about 120 years of all the advances that we have made and the improvements that we would have. And last but not least is also regarding the historic society. I'm very much in favor of the historic society because I do have like 2 young kids, and as they move around town, there are a lot of construction. Almost like every third permit is a tear down and a complete rebuild, and there are a lot of debris. And due to the cost and economization that has taken place, there are corners that are being cut, whether it is affordable housing. And sometimes they come back and they tell that they're very scared to even walk on the roads when they see the huge construction vehicles that roam around our town. And just as a rule of thumb, there's like almost every third one is a complete tear down and a rebuild. And every fourth house almost has some form of a renovation or a repair that is going on. That can be tracked with the number of permits that are issued, which are greater than 3,000 plus. And then this is regarding the CEDA. We would like to know how we could volunteer for that and be a part of the solution. We do know that there have been certain cases where there have been glaring omissions, such as the Afro-American community from our 250th mural. But mistakes have been made. We understand that, but we want to progress. And how do we enhance it? And as a volunteer, what are we supposed to do for that? we would like to hear the feedback from the township council. Thank you.
Good evening, Richie Seibert, township resident, 25 years. So I've lived in town 25 years. And honestly, I never heard of CETA, ever. Yet, 2 township committee meetings now, or more maybe, that's the main topic of what's been going on. I trust the township committee members who are elected by the residents of the town to make a decision on what CETA is going to be in the future. And one last thing, Milburn Robotics is the state champs. They won the state championship. We've got 3 or 4 robots going to the Worlds in St. Louis next month. And if everybody remembers, back in 2019, Milburn was the world champs. They beat China and become the world champions. So they were good again.
Father.
Good evening, Nicholas Volpicelli, 19-year resident of Milburn. I'd like to rise in support of the township committee's decisions around the fields. You know, it wasn't that long ago that the library field was turned into turf. I don't remember all these objections at that time from some of the same voices who today are objecting to the same, actually a better solution. The field of the library includes rubber crumb, includes a concrete underlay which does not absorb. I think the options the township committee is now considering are advanced from what had been chosen at the library field. So it does feel like some of this opposition might be as natural as the astroturf that's about to be laid. Second, regarding CETA, you know, these things naturally are political, unfortunately, right? And for the voices out there calling for apolitical and what is naturally a political body, I'll remind us that it was not that long ago that people rising at this very podium were shouted at, spoken over until their time ran out, right? Over just a couple of years ago. So this committee has moved, and that's the last couple of years including, but this committee as well. This has been incredible decorum this evening. So I do think this group is doing a fair job of representing us with decorum, and I trust the decisions that they are making. So that's my case.
Hi, Leah Cruz, Short Hills resident. I've stated that I've been in favor of the turf fields in the past, and I just want to reiterate that. And I watched a lot of banter back and forth on Facebook, and it's made me more confident in my stance to be pro turf fields. And I just want to read something that Stacy Tavel, a local pediatrician, wrote online today that really solidified my stance. Turf is a good alternative. We shouldn't make perfect be the enemy of good. Youth sports are so important. Obesity and screen time are probably the biggest issues negatively impacting our children's health these days. Let's figure out a way to give kids fields to play on. Also, I come to these meetings a lot. There are a lot of regulars here, and I see a lot of new faces. So I'm just curious if people would be willing. How many people in the audience are here in support of turf fields? Would you object?
Would you like to comment?
Sorry. Thank you. That's it.
Christine Best, Milburn Township. I'm just trying to quickly go, guys. Thank you for your quiet. I just want to talk in support of turf fields. As most people in this room know me, I am an environmentalist and I care about a lot of things in the environment. And on the turf fields, I stand in support because I don't think, after looking at the research, particularly that was done very heavily by the township, I mean, they really looked at this. They looked at the numbers in so many different ways. I don't think that you could say oh, microplastics are more dangerous than glyphosate. And glyphosate is a very highly toxic chemical that causes cancer. So you're gonna have to spray Roundup on all these fields and many other types of, toxic pollutants that will directly be absorbed in the kid's skin, whereas microplastics, normally they're contaminated through food products. And I want to remind everybody that almost all your produce at Whole Foods is packaged in microplastics. So what I'm trying to say is, when I look at this, you're gonna get almost 2.45, extra, sort of playing fields or, playing time, I'm sorry. And you're saving yourself from installing 3 additional, if you do these 2 fields, it's down already, they're already there, it's already in an area that's really non-residential. Now you're gonna go and have to open up and find 3 more playing fields. So are you gonna go and take them from Old Short Hills Park? Or are you gonna take it from the golf course? So you're now actually gonna have to go take down trees, trash an area, have less open space to get the same end result, because specifically there was a lot of research done on the amount of playable hours. So that is why, as somebody, like, the lesser of 2 evils, we have to pick. I mean, it's important for people. There are so many people, particularly Prickett, have not gotten their fields, and I'm fully in support of it. And I think you guys have done a great job. I'm also really concerned why the EC, is kind of flip-flopping on things, because they approved a little playground in Taylor Park that has a lot of toxic chemicals in it right next to a rivershed. I called that out, I sent that information to the chair of the EC, and basically it was like a nothing burger. So I'm kind of interested why close to an election. This is just my personal point of view. This is all coming up, and why does the EC not, against, a development on Old Short Hills Road that was gonna have a 100-car parking lot and really trash the environment, and also the original turf fields. Why is this such an issue? And you guys did an amazing job for over a year, and you did a lot of heavy presentations, and people had a chance to comment. So please, I hope you move forward, and I hope that people who play sports enjoy the fields. Thank you.
Alan Bong, Short Hills. So I just, a lot of people already said a lot of stuff about the turf fields. I'm more scientific than I am. I'm only really here to just say, I really want my kids to play and have a place to play and feel safe playing. Whether they're going there on their own or I'm driving them, picking them up, I want them to feel safe and be able to play. Now, I might be a little biased. I've been with Milford Soccer Club for a while. My kids' teams always get the fun fields, such as Old Short Hills Park, Hartshorn, Glenwood, Deerfield, Washington School, all of which are really not great. That's the best choice of words in the fall. And we played in there, we practiced there, we've had games there. And quite frankly, they just suck. On top of that, we've had games behind the high school as well. So the current behind the high school field, we've had soccer games there. And I do remember, my kid was a little smaller. There was another guy here whose kid was also a little smaller with my kid at the same time, at the same team. And we both watched our kids disappear in little potholes in the back of the field while trying to play soccer. So, when we talk about safety and all that kind of stuff, watching our kids drop into potholes on field is not something that I really want to, continue doing. So that's my thing about safety. The other safety thing I do have concern about, so there's gonna be lights in the back. Obviously, most of the high schools usually lit up. It's kind of in town, so there's a lot of people there. When we do practice at places like Old Short Hills Park, that place is pitch black in the fall. So like parents kind of just, hanging out, driving to the parking lot, you have kids running through the driveway just to get to the parking lot to their, to their parents because they think they're there. That's a safety concern too. And I see that also again in the fall, mainly in some of the, elementary schools, maybe not so much the high school or the library, things like that. So, I just want to say that. So at the end of the day, I just want my kids to play, right? And that's why I'm here, and I'm in support of the turf fields. As long as that gives my kids more time and more opportunity and safety to play, that's what we should be doing. Let the scientists figure out all the other stuff, but we should move forward with this. Thank you.
Good evening. Al Carlin, a Milburn resident, and no children in the school district, never have had any. but I'm calling about the state of New Jersey. And if everyone has seen the budget and looked at what happened and what the governor said last week, I believe it was last week. How will that affect Milburn's Township? What about less money coming into the school system? What was it, about $200-something thousand, 3% or whatever? How will that affect Milburn? Where will that money come from? Will more money go back into the school system from other places? You know, these are just simple questions. What about pensions? How will that affect ongoing hiring in Milburn? I mean, these are not, difficult questions, but it will be ongoing. How will that affect? Milburn is a fairly well-off town. Other towns that have been well off are having problems. Our wonderful friends in Montclair, they still have to figure out how they're going to support their school system. 8 votes, they are still trying to figure out what won. And it's 24 pages to figure out about curling, what is it, curling? Figuring out what votes are legal and what not legal. The provisional ballots. I mean, this is costing the Essex County a lot of money. Where's the money coming from? It's coming from folks like you. I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars because those wonderful people in Montclair didn't make some good decisions. So where's our money going to? It's going to our fellow citizens. Now, this is going to affect everyone in Milburn. Now, we are losing money, not we, because I don't have children in this place, but it's affecting everyone, and what happens in Milburn is important. Pensions, school, and where is the money going to go? We talk about fields, it's fine. I never played on these fields, I played stickball. Years ago, on, you know what stickball is, you probably heard of it. But, I played soccer on NFL in fields years ago. I'm gonna be 78, and I'm gonna be here. I am not going to Israel tomorrow to see a wedding because there are problems out there. Also, I'd like to find out what is being taught in the high schools about what is happening there. What's happening in the high schools, what's being taught. These are important things. I think, others may not. Have a good day, folks. Bye.
You're on. Just don't say your address.
My name is William Abuazidi and I live in Melbourne. I play for Melbourne Soccer Club and I really think we should have turf fields. Cause a lot of the time at my practices, we go on maybe grass fields. And it might have just rained earlier, a couple days before, and the fields are really wet and muddy. And if you fall down, your knees and clothes get all dirty. And so I think we should have turf fields. It would help us play a bit better. And I think it would be cleaner also.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good evening. My name is Vinita Gangwal. I'm a Short Hills resident, member of Melbourne Environmental Commission and Melbourne Climate Action. I'm here tonight representing Melbourne Climate Action to reiterate one statement. We want the same thing as many families in our town, that is more games played and fewer cancellations. Playable hours matter, but we believe so do the health impacts on our athletes, our community, and our shared environment. That is precisely why we appreciate the commitments this committee has made in their recent response, moving away from traditional crumb rubber and toward organic infill-free systems and hybrid options. Those are the right commitments. However, here is a concern. Those better options have not yet been priced. Neither has engineered natural grass, which deserves to be evaluated as a serious third option. And let's be very honest here. These options will very likely cost more than traditional artificial turf because plastic is cheap and cutting corners is always cheaper. So here's a question for the committee. If the bids for the environmentally superior options come back significantly higher, will this committee hold the line or will we quietly end up with the cheaper option these commitments were meant to replace? In addition, since there's so much focus on cost per playable hours, we also ask this committee to commit to an honest analysis of playable hours across all viable options. Each surface type will perform differently on the site, and the community deserves to see those numbers transparently. More importantly, playable hours cannot be the only North Star because a field that wins on playable hours but fails on safety, contamination, or climate resilience is not a win for this community. This particular site faces risks that go well beyond surface type. Flooding is a known ongoing risk here, and our state has experienced increasing temperatures every year for the past 10 years. Our climate is expected to continue to change significantly over the very 30-year period this proposal covers, with more frequent and intense heat waves and flooding events. The township model assumes predictable maintenance and consistent playable hours with artificial turf, not accounting for weather or climate impacts. There's no doubt that if we get the surface materials wrong, these playable hours and cost numbers will not hold. Once again, we acknowledge that the commitments made by this committee are a welcome step in the right direction. However, the right decision can only be made if it is based on a full cost benefit analysis that gives due weight to environmental impacts and public health, not just playable hours. Over 375 residents who signed the Melbourne Climate Action petition are counting on you to do exactly that. I would like this petition and our concerns as stated tonight entered into the public record. Thank you.
Alex, if you could turn on your video and unmute yourself.
Oh, there we go. Yes, how are you?
Well,
Okay. Can you hear me?
yes,
All
we
right.
can hear you, we can see you.
Great. Just wanted this is about the turf field situation. Just want to make a statement. For 6 years, I was on the board of education. During that time, one of the most consistent things that I've heard over and over again from parents, coaches, and residents was simple: we don't have enough field access. Not because of poor planning, but because we are a built-out town with limited space. And at the same time, the Board of Ed controls one of the most significant pieces of usable land we have, the high school campus. That really hasn't changed. So the question in front of us isn't whether turf is perfect. It isn't. There are legitimate concerns, and they deserve to be taken seriously. But we also have to ground this discussion in facts, data, and credible studies, and not fear or speculation. When you actually look at the research, what you see is nuance. Some of the concerns that have been raised simply are not supported by evidence as real-world outcomes. Others are legitimate, but as outlined in the township's own response document, they are understood, measurable, and manageable through proper design, material selection, and operational practices. That distinction matters because we also have to be honest about the constraints we're operating under. We cannot create more land or build new fields easily. And reducing demand, telling kids that they get less practice time, fewer games, or limited access is not something this community wants. What we can do is make better use of the space we already have. This is why this partnership between the town and the Board of Education is important. It's not just a project. It's the only realistic way to expand access in a meaningful way. And when you look at the options available today, turf is the one solution that significantly increases usable time on the field on the same footprint, while also providing reliability in a climate where weather frequently disrupts schedules. So this comes down to a practical decision. Do we acknowledge the trade-offs, address them responsibly, and move forward with a solution that meaningfully improves access for our kids and community? Or do we continue to debate without a viable alternative and leave families, students with the same shortage we've been hearing for years? From my experience, both on the board and as a member of this community, the need is real. It's been real for years. We've studied this and we've heard all the sides. At some point, we have to make a decision grounded in facts and move forward. It's time to get this done and serve the community. Get the field done. Thank you.
Unmute. Start video. Come on. Good evening, everyone. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Thank you to the Township Committee, as always, for your service. I wanted to reach out to you briefly tonight to voice my concerns about the ordinance that is up for first reading tonight, ordinance 274126.
Before you continue, can you please state your name?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Regina Truitt, Short Hills resident. I was also on the Board of Ed for 7 years. My daughter played on those fields. I know how important it is for sports. I don't think anyone tonight is denying that there needs to be more opportunity for our Milburn students and our Milburn athletes, and indeed for revenues to come to Milburn to be able to play on our fields. But I'm going to say the old adage is measure twice, cut once. And I'm going to say actually in this place, I agree with Gene Pasternak that we should not be so eager that we should be looking at the facts, the environmental facts. There are two issues to this concerns tonight. The first one is the health and safety of our athletes, and secondly, and also the environmental concerns. I was moved by Mount Sinai School of Medicine's position statement that strongly discouraged the installation of turf fields, artificial turf fields. And I expressed my caution with that. Our own environmental commission has suggested that we not move forward with artificial turf. The second concern, of course, is the use of public open space trust funds to use for these projects, for artificial turf in particular. And I am going to point out to you that I noticed your ordinance tonight does not lock you in to anything synthetic. It actually says various field improvements. You are not locked into turf. And I hope that you won't let facts get in the way of your decision being made up already. You still have room. The open space trust funds, most residents in Milburn that I've spoken to feel deceived because they thought this was going to be to preserve natural resources. And I would encourage you to follow through in the spirit of that ordinance and that passage. Lastly, I just want to end up with saying the Milburn Environmental Commission and the Milburn for Climate Action have proposed an independent commission to look at all options to make sure that we are providing playing fields for our students and our athletes in the most safe, responsible, and environmentally sound manner. And I would encourage you to please consider that when you adopt this ordinance tonight, or if you pass it tonight, that you also leave room for the commission to do its independent study that is in addition to the limited studies that you've looked at already. Thank you so much.
Anyone else online? No. Anyone else from the audience? Going once, going twice. With that, we will close the public comment. Ms. Fuller,
Sure. All right, thank you for everybody came out, the kids, and such, I know it's past your bedtime possibly, and you did do a lot of homework, so. As I start here, I really don't know where to start, but I'm gonna take a place. Blaine, are you still here? Yeah, Blaine, I love you, I love your children, your sons, your daughter, everyone. She is a big part of the reason I ran for this township committee. She ran the year prior, I was called out today by, I guess, Diane Eglo for a letter that she wrote. I want to read parts of this letter because it all came together. And then after speaking to Oyen, I decided to run. I have 4 kids, a big business, play a lot of golf. Listen, there's a lot of better things I could have done with my time. But what I felt is that the community at writ large was being ignored because we want solutions to our problems. We don't want environmental roadblocks. Bill Brazell on the Sierra Club, head of EC, strong arms people in environmental issues. This is a community. We do what's best for the community writ large. We have to make difficult decisions. That's what sitting up here means, making difficult decisions and getting all the information, all the input. Back to this letter. I'm a lifelong resident of Millburn, a longtime registered Democrat. I've never been registered as a Republican. I've always registered as an independent. In fact, I think somebody texted me that my family is all registered as Democrats. I've served Millburn Township in volunteer position for over 25 years, including 15 years on the MSH volunteer first squad. Over the last 6 years, blah, 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 blah. Until recent local events forced me to choose between the party and my conscience. I had no intention of leaving the local Millburn Short Hills Democratic Party. I noted a problem with my party politics when I was expected to hire firms that were promoted by the county Democratic Party. How can we live in that society where that's happening? That was a big part of it. I talked to Oyen. Everybody wants diversity, but no one wants to vote for diversity. We had structural issues with CETA. CETA's not going away. It's being improved with the CDC. So as we sit here today and we move forward, please don't try to gaslight the entire committee. Bill Brazell just said there's 270 people who signed a petition. Anita said there's 375. I have 1,000 people from the Millburn Soccer Club here tonight. I have north of 500 from the lacrosse team. Not coaching like that, when I walked in here, is our entire flag football team to say we need fields. This isn't a political football. This is about real life solutions for our community that need to be resolved, not stuck in some arbitrary space that we don't know. Let me tell you, there's 194 apartments.
Could we ask Mr. Stoller to calm down, please?
I think that if the audience is able to get animated as they are.
Yeah, there's
If
100.
anyone wants to be animated in his response, he can, so.
And I appreciate it, Dave. Thank you for, I just get emotional about some of this stuff. Okay, thank you, Dave. We're putting 194 apartments on a reservoir on JFK. Where was the Environmental Commission then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's right on our reservoir, folks. The infrastructure's broken. The school system's gonna be overcrowded. They're eliminating the Indiana bat of all things, the species, they're eliminating it by putting that structure there. Where was the Environmental Commission then? Where was the Environmental Commission when they're putting 75 families on a contaminated dump site?
Thank you.
Where were they when they're putting up this Annie-Says project? It's a monstrosity. Has anybody driven up Millburn Avenue towards Maple lately?
Thank you.
That's pervious. It's impervious. There's no water going to go into the ground there. It's all coming downhill. It's going to hit South Mountain.
Again.
Pastor Maribel, thank you so much for what you do to your community. Mr. Holman talked about including you in jazz and Jesus. I love it. Did he ask you about that before this came to light? I don't know, probably not. It's a nice afterthought. I would think that would be thought as a preamble to doing a jazz community. And I'm all for the jazz. Can't wait to go. I'm gonna read some schools here. Brown, Columbia, Cornell, Dartmouth, Harvard, Penn, Princeton, Yale, all aspiring universities, colleges that our children want to go to. They all have turf fields, and they're 90% turf. So for us to sit here and say that turf is bad, it's environmentally challenged, we're looking at I would not put my child on something that I thought was dangerous. I would not put any of your children on something that we thought was dangerous. When I got elected, that first week I met with Chris Heinrichs. I saw Chris, you still here? With Chris Heinrichs, he'll tell you. How do we create a partnership to solve the fields. And you know what Chris did? He yelled at me. It was hysterical. And then we talked simply and we came to understand that we will do everything we can to make this happen for our children. And it was a great partnership. This is culminating in one of the best partnerships we've had with the BOE, and it's all for a solution. Not to identify a problem, kick the can down the road, and create issues long-term. This is about creating a solution. Do I have anything else here? The gentleman who's talking about biking, listen, little Wyoming turns in a little 500 every weekend. I agree with you 100%. It's dangerous out there. We have to be careful. We should do what we can to improve the riding experience. And whoever texted me that I have an Ohio State water bottle, I had to pull it for my daughter this morning. Everybody knows I'm a Hoosier, so quit yelling at me about that. That's it for now. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. A few comments. Get this on. Thank you, Mayor. A few comments. I'll try to take them in order when they were made. I haven't seen anything political at all relating to the fields. And that was a comment made by someone on open space. There's been a few comments on open space. There is going to be a separate vote at a later date on the open space funding and whether this committee chooses to adopt the recommendation of the open space committee. If you listen to the open space committee hearing, I'm not saying you should have, but you certainly can, you'll see that I was not in favor of using open space money for the fields. And I think people have connected those two somehow when they're not connected. The fields is one question, it's on tonight. Open space is a completely separate town. The town has plenty of money for the fields. It doesn't need the open space money. So there's two different things going on there. Note that the open space committee did vote to authorize 25%. And if this thing ends up, if the bond itself ends up being a, let's say a 10-year bond, a rough estimate is $250,000 of the open space fund will go every year to pay down that bond. That's $250 that's not available for other projects on it, but it has no connection to the field at all. On CETA, in my mind at least, what I think people are missing is the point that there are better ways to correct the perceived deficiencies, such as people being left out, not keeping minutes, et cetera, rather than having the township commission appoint the secretary and the chair every year for the rest of the life of that committee. So my thoughts process there on the CETA committee is, let's not kill a fly with a hammer. Let's fix it, but it doesn't have to be as severe as it is. There was a comment about whether or not people here, and I think I can speak for everyone here, whether we read the emails that we get from you folks. We do. I certainly do. I've talked to a lot of you. Very happy to see this many people here tonight. I'm happy to hear the comments from everybody, but we do listen and read everything. I don't honestly respond to every email message that I get. Sometimes it's because I don't feel the need to respond to them. Matt Cali, there was a question asked about Matt Cali. And I think the Matt Cali money that's being refunded drives home to, at least to me on this board, that we have to be fiscally responsible. We are going to have to occasionally, have a tax appeal where it's not a couple $1,000s, it's a lot of money. And as a board, we need to watch how much money we're spending. Thank you very much.
Minister Ruda? Yes, I might add, Reverend Maribel also, anybody who does know her, there's nobody better at community engagement. She has unbelievable connections, and I think is going to be a great addition to the community, cultural diversity committee with
her amazing role at NJPAC. She and I have seen each other at a couple of events over there. So thank you very much for your engagement here and of course engagement around the state. I think you are a welcomed addition. A few different notes. So on roads, no question, Mr. McDonald knows that I'm eager to improve our municipal infrastructure. So certainly the roads that you mentioned and others that you all haven't mentioned, the township is keeping an eye and trying to take care of whatever is necessary. I was driving down actually Glen Avenue, we were talking about, DPW was out there filling potholes 2 days ago. You know, I turn a corner onto X Street, they're out there. So we have an amazing team and real kudos there. Just want to recite a quote, "Lost time is never found again," Benjamin Franklin. So, you know, many of you know that there are some star athletes, wimpy athletes in the Ceruto family. Anyone want to guess which side I fell? Well, actually, I lettered in football and golf here, so I'm on the strong side. But I want to give some kudos to the young athletes that are in the audience, anybody who's sitting out in the audience and who did speak tonight. This is how I got my start, right? Speaking actually about an oil tank issue in my Boy Scout uniform several years ago. So maybe one day you'll serve on the Board of Ed as the young resident and maybe on the Township Committee. But I think what's stated by so many out here is so important. I mean, look at the winter that we've had. I played on these fields, right? I played on the turf fields, I played on the grass fields. I went to the school district. I'm the only one sitting up here who did play on our fields, who did experience firsthand. So I think, you know, we see the stars aligning here and I'm looking forward to supporting this. I think more than anything, you know, you've heard that we're trying to do our due diligence, right? I mean, I came home myself, you could, you know, look at our years and years ago, a washer and dryer and whatever, pellets, you know, whatever you want to call them. And that's not the kind of turf that I want to see, you know, the old style. I want to see us being responsible. And I think, you know, today I was even looking at some examples with the recreation director, and I was really impressed with what I saw. You know, the time now is not to delay. It's to do what's right for the community. And, you know, we need to do what is right. And I think at this point, this is the right step. To Mr. Cosgrove's point, receive all of your emails, read everything. You know, don't always get a chance to respond directly, but read everything, whether that's Mr. Brazell, who got along, I think today, whether that is Mr. Feld, whether that is Mr. Bambera, whether that is anybody in the audience. So know that. And I appreciate everybody's engagement. I think it's great to see this attendance. Any of our field special visitors today, you know, you could join every 2 weeks. Thank you very much, and turn it back to you now.
Thank you. So first off, I would like to thank William, the young gentleman who came and spoke up. I think gave the for him. Thank you so much for your bravery. I know it's difficult to get up in front of a lot of people and say what you need to say. So kudos to you. To everyone else that came out to talk about fields, you know, I really appreciate you all taking the time to come speak about, you know, what you're passionate about. And, you know, I think what I walk away from amongst all the conversations that we've had tonight about fields is this is something we absolutely have to do. This is something that's long overdue. And we can't let perfect be the enemy of good. Now, the township has gone to great lengths to have public sessions. They put out a 28-page document that responds to claims that the EC had made about, you know, turf versus natural grass. It's very comprehensive. It has an entire like page or two of bibliography references, cites study after study that shows that, you know, the materials that we're considering for synthetic turf fields are safe. We would never, you know, as township committee members, we would never put our kids in harm's way or your kids in harm's way. So obviously, we will ensure that any material we use is safe. But I do think some interesting points were raised tonight about some of the dangers of natural grass, right? All of the fertilizers, all of the pesticides, and, you know, all of the water that gets used for maintenance of fields. And I'm gonna address some specific claims and questions that the Milburn Climate Action Group made and that the EC raised in a letter they sent earlier when I introduced the ordinance, so more on that. But you know, I will say, I think there are two sides of this coin, and, you know, just because the synthetic fields are made of plastic, that doesn't make them bad, doesn't make them dangerous. We need to look past that and look at really what's best for our kids. And right now, that's moving forward with this project, so hopefully we'll do that very shortly. On CETA, you know, I was quite dismayed that there was a clerical error and we couldn't vote on that tonight. Going forward, actually, we're going to no longer leave a gap in between first and second read of ordinances. We're going to do this across the board. I've talked with our township clerk about this. There are new noticing requirements that went into effect that make things much easier. We only have to do 48 hours of notice, and our township has a system you can sign up for if you want to receive alerts about ordinances and bonds and all that. So anyone that really wants to be in the know can. So we feel that, you know, given the fact that there's no longer a need to have to get something to a newspaper, we're gonna get more done, and we're gonna do that by not leaving a gap. So that's just what we're gonna do going forward, because I know someone brought that up, why there wasn't a gap there. So going back to CETA. So look, I think we've heard that CETA has longstanding structural issues. I've talked to members of CETA, not the ones that were just appointed. Okay, I've talked to other members of CETA. But what they have told me is the self-anointed chair, you know, as great as she may have been in helping the community, et cetera, I was told that she ran this like her own personal fiefdom. Okay, we do not have kings, we do not have queens, and we do not have fiefs here in Milburn. Okay, I was also dismayed when I learned that the self-anointed chair decided to put a tile with her name on it, okay, on this wall that's gonna be there permanently, and yet left off the Mount Zion Church, left off the Black Americans of Milburn Short Hills. That doesn't seem right to me. I was also further dismayed when I met with Pastor Maribel to learn that she and Jackie actually knew each other and interacted prior to this situation. So it's not as if the
That's not
self-anointed chair, it's not as if the self-anointed chair.
That's not true.
He listened to you, listen to him.
You're out of order. So they knew how to get in touch. Furthermore, the self-anointed chair also knew how to reach Boyan, who's one of the founders of BAMS, Black Americans of Milburn Short Hills. So, okay, if she says it's an oversight, maybe I'll believe that, but I don't know, maybe I won't. The thing is, there's a systemic issue, and when we encounter a systemic issue, it's incumbent upon us to fix it, all right? This tile project that's being undertaken by CETA is collecting money from the Short Hills Mall. It's gonna be deposited into township accounts, and I think the township's gonna end up probably having to cover, you know, any gaps in funding. We're gonna have the township DPW workers involved in potentially, you know, putting these tiles up. That gives the town exposure. It gives us liability. If we leave a group out and they get upset about it, that's a reputational risk for our township. CETA is not an independent organization. It is a creation of the township, and we need to do things properly. So when we have a committee that we learn is not following its founding guidelines, is not performing a reorganization, has a self-anointed chair in perpetuity, then we're gonna take action. And if there's other committees that we come across that have similar issues, then we'll look at those, and on a case-by-case basis, we'll take the appropriate action. But in this case, the appropriate action is to tear down this committee that excluded others in our community and build a new one that's focused on diversity and inclusion and make sure that everyone that wants to be a part of it can be a part of it. And that's why I said last time that any member of CETA that's currently a member, you will automatically be appointed to the new Cultural Diversity Committee. Unless you tell us that you don't want to be a part of it, you will be automatically appointed. Now, for anyone else, and we're going to talk about this later into new business, under the DIF forms, for anyone else that would like to join that committee, we will let anyone in town that's a resident be on the committee. Now, there's a good point that should probably be made. You know, our pastor here is not actually a Milburn resident, and when I met with her, I suggested that the recommendation I'm gonna make to the CDC is that they form subcommittees, and they have those subcommittees reach out and include other organizations in town. So what I learned is there's a group of ministers and pastors and rabbis and all of the clergy in town. They meet together as a group. I would think that there should be a subcommittee of the CDC that's focused on including the clergy, because that's part of culture and that's part of diversity. I think that, the SID, for instance, and some of the other organizations that were mentioned that were supposedly left off the ordinance, they can be incorporated through subcommittees. I think the new committee will also be able to decide, what groups they want to include, and if they have people that they want to recommend to be put on CETA, they can encourage them to apply, because we're gonna have the new CDC open to everyone. So anyone that applies, it's gonna be put on there, so it's gonna be open. And that's different than how it was in the past. I mean, it wasn't until now that some of the people that are on CETA were actually able to be put on CETA. So, it's definitely not political. When we counter a problem, we're gonna solve it. Just like the fields, right? You countered a problem, we're gonna take action to solve that tonight. We got complaints about CETA, we took corrective action, and if we get complaints about something else, we will look at it and take the appropriate action. Okay, let's see. Mr. Carlin, with regards to how the state budget is gonna impact our township, that's something that we'll have to look at in more detail. We're used to sort of getting the short end of the stick when it comes to funding here in Milburn. And luckily, we have we've had a very good fiscal policy over the years, and we're very responsible with our taxpayer dollars. And we have a AAA credit rating, so I'm certain that regardless of what the governor may throw at us in terms of a budget, that we will be able to continue to provide the high level of services that our residents demand. So I'm not concerned about that. Right, well, I think that covers most of it, and as I said, I will address some of what the EC and the Milburn Climate Action brought up specifically later on. With that, I will turn it over to you, Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few brief comments regarding the roads that have been brought up, received. However, I just want to reiterate that we do use a data-driven decision process when it comes to pavement condition index. So while I realize that everybody will certainly feel that their road is in the worst condition and probably should be paved, we do have a limited budget and we do make that based on that data. And so, but with that being said, I don't think the roads that were mentioned here tonight are far off of that list. Particularly Jefferson has been brought up for quite some time now, even within our engineering department. So also on the snow cost, we are not going to amortize that over 5 years. The township has a storm trust in which we utilize for such things to ensure that we don't have to amortize those types of costs over 5 years. In addition, this storm was the particular storm was very close, if not will be eventually deemed a reimbursable storm. We've already done the analysis and the cost for that and provided that to the county in the event that it is reimbursable. And then as far as large turf mowing, yes, that does include Old Short Hills Park, Giroux Park, Taylor Park. All of those large spaces, Hobart Park, are mowed through this contract. That's it. Thank you.
Attorney Cantor?
I have no comments tonight, Mayor, thank you.
All right. With that, we will move on to the consent agenda. The Township Committee will now consider consent agenda resolutions. Are there any comments from the committee in regard to any of the items listed on the consent agenda? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve resolution 26-088 through resolution 26-096?
Motion.
Yes, I have a second.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cosgrove?
Yes.
Mr. Ceruto?
Yes.
Mr. Stoller?
Affirmative.
Mayor Sakamandy?
Yes.
Thank you.
Ordinances, ordinance 2740-26. Deputy Mayor Cosgrove, you're scheduled to sponsor.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to present an ordinance entitled ordinance number 2740-26. Ordinance amending and supplementing the Township of Milburn Streets and Sidewalk Ordinance. There has been an amendment to this ordinance that's being presented tonight. I'll give you a brief description of what the ordinance is about. We felt it, or certainly I did, but I think we all felt it was necessary to get better control over what happens to sidewalks that are next to and adjoining developments that are being done. We've heard complaints about Andy Centers, we've heard complaints about Silverman sidewalk being moved from one side to the other. So that's what this is about, is to try to get some requirements, around that. The amendment is going to add, if you've looked at this ordinance, D3, and I'll just read it. It says, no approved sidewalk closure shall last more than 6 months. Any closure that's necessitated beyond 6 months must resubmit for permitting and review by the engineering department at least 1 month prior to the reaching of this 6 month of closure. So that's trying to put a cap on how long a sidewalk, is closed, which puts the public out, and you can't use that sidewalk for no further time. So anyway, on to it. That's the purpose of it, and that's the amendment. I move that this ordinance be taken up and passed on first reading, and that the township clerk be authorized to have the ordinance posted in accordance with law on the Milburn Township Public Notices page for hearing and final passage on Tuesday, April 7th, 2026.
May I have a second?
Second. Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cosgrove?
Yes.
Mr. Ceruto?
Yes.
Mr. Stoller?
Affirmative.
Mayor Sakamandy?
Yes. Right. Ordinance 2741-26. I am the sponsor. I would like to present an ordinance entitled ordinance number 2741-26. Bond ordinance providing for various field improvements at the Milburn High School by and in the Township of Milburn, in the County of Essex, State of New Jersey, appropriating $4,500,000, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $4,275,000 bond notes of the township finance part of the cost thereof. So before I make a formal motion to introduce this ordinance, I want to address some points that those in the opposition to this ordinance have brought up earlier tonight and over the past few weeks. First, what is happening tonight? This is a first reading, an introduction. There will be a full public hearing before any final vote. The suggestion that this project is being rushed does not reflect reality. This project has been studied, discussed, and publicly debated for the better part of 2 years. Tonight's vote doesn't lock in a surface material. It authorizes the township share of project funding so that we can move into the engineering phase, which is where the final surface selection, material specifications, and detailed cost engineering will happen. That is the proper sequence for capital projects of this scale. Several speakers tonight and a letter we received from the Milburn Climate Action Group and the Environmental Commission have asked us to pause and commission an independent study comparing synthetic turf to engineered natural grass, specifically sand-based systems with subsurface drainage. The Milburn Climate Action Group recommended that we contact 3 sources: Land Tech Group, Tuckahoe Turf Farms, and the Rutgers Center for Turfgrass Scientists. They gave us website URL links. The website we were provided for the Land Tech Group was incorrect and sent us to a Chinese meter product website. We were also given the wrong website for Tuckahoe Farms. Now, we did some due diligence and we did track down the proper Tuckahoe Farms, and we'll be speaking with them to see what they have to say. But not wanting to give up, and wanting to have some answers for tonight, we contacted Rutgers University Center for Turfgrass Science. And I want to share what we learned. Dr. Brad Park at the Rutgers Center for Turfgrass Science told us that he is unaware of any municipality in the state of New Jersey that has a sand-based root zone playing field. He said those systems are typically found at professional and college facilities, and that most municipalities do not have the staff with the agronomic expertise required to manage them. The Sports Field Management Association's own best management practice guide confirms this. It states that sand-based fields are generally used for professional or high-profile college sports and require intensive management. The Sports Field Management Association's cost guide shows sand-based natural grass construction runs $55 to $8 per square foot, which is comparable to synthetic turf, but with a fraction of the usable hours. And here's what I think is the most important point. Dr. Park and Dr. James Murphy, the director of the Rutgers Center for Turfgrass Science, co-authored a Rutgers Cooperative Extension Bulletin on the management of natural turf sports fields. In that publication, they write that in communities where demand for sports fields is great, many grounds managers have found that installation of synthetic turf is what helps manage the load on natural grass. Their own published research recommends synthetic turf as a solution for exactly the situation Milburn is in. The underlying science is straightforward. The Sports Field Management Association, Cornell, and Oregon State have all established that natural grass, even premium sand-based systems, can sustain a maximum of 20 to 24 hours of organized play per week. Milburn's fields need to support the use from 3:30 to 10 o'clock, 5 days a week, plus weekends. That is over 65 hours per week, roughly 3 times the biological maximum for any grass surface. No drainage system changes that. Grass needs time to recover from foot traffic. Today's letter from the Environmental Commission also references the Westfield Edison Fields project as a reason to slow down. Westfield's budget grew 37% because of rising material costs and expanded requirements, the exact forces that punish delay. The bond ordinance is the mechanism that allows us to move into the engineering phase and lock in real numbers. Waiting doesn't save money, it costs money. I want to address the health and environmental concerns raised tonight. We published a 28-page source-cited response to every concern the Environmental Commission raised prior to the date of publication. We are not proposing crumb rubber infill. The systems under consideration use organic or infill-free materials with 0 PFAS, 0 EAHs, and 0 lead. The California Office of Environmental Health Hazard Assessment, which is a division of California EPA, released its final health risk assessment for synthetic turf this month and found that cancer risk is well within the EPA's acceptable range. We plan to submit our NJDP permit application later this month. The EC's letter also cites the Princeton Hydro flood study, which found that storms above the 25-year threshold will overtop these fields regardless of surface type. That is exactly the point. When floodwaters recede, a synthetic surface drains and is playable within hours. A natural grass field turns to mud and needs weeks to recover. On a flood-prone site, synthetic turf is the more resilient choice. Our families have been living with muddy, unusable fields for years. Games canceled, practices relocated. The feasibility study was conducted by professional engineers. The Open Space Trust Fund Advisory Committee has voted to recommend supporting this project and using up to 25% of their annual revenue to help fund this bond. And when we reached out to the very experts the opposition cited, they confirmed what the science already tells us. Further delay does not produce better answers. It produces another lost season. Therefore, I will now formally make a motion to introduce this ordinance, and I urge my colleagues to support it. I move that this ordinance be taken up and passed on first reading, that the township clerk be authorized to have the ordinance posted in accordance with law on the Milburn Township Public Notices page, and for hearing and final passage on Tuesday, April 7th, 2026. May I have a second, please?
It's my honor, second.
Okay, now we have an opportunity for discussion. Any of the TC members? Anything they'd like to say?
Fully supported. Let's roll.
Let's get this thing done.
I agree. In that case, we have a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cosgrove?
Yes.
Mr. Ceruto?
Yes.
Mr. Stoller?
Absolutely.
Mayor Sacramandi?
An emphatic yes.
Thank you.
Take a 3-minute recess. All right. We're going to resume our meeting. Give you guys a moment to take your seats if you're staying. We're gonna continue with the ordinances. Ordinance 2742-26. Ready, Mr. Rudo, your scheduled sponsor.
Yes, I am. Okay. I would like to present an ordinance entitled ordinance number 2742-26, an ordinance of the Township of Milburn, County of Essex, authorizing the Township of Milburn to execute an agreement of the sale as to portions of real estate property located at 10 Rand Circle, Milburn, New Jersey 07078. So this is
That's fine.
what did I say? Oh, I apologize. You know what? I looked at my own life. It's written as 07078 on here, and I apologize. 07041. I just want to make sure the ordinance text has that correct.
It will.
Excellent. So noted. So this is to acquire property that is in flood zone, of course, within the township, and is going to allow us. It's going to allow flood mitigation for flood mitigation purposes. I move that this ordinance be taken up and passed on first reading, that the township clerk be authorized to have the ordinance posted in accordance with law in the Milburn Township Public Notices page and for hearing and final passage on Tuesday, April 7th, 2026.
I'll second that. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cosgrove?
Yes.
Mr. Ceruto?
Yes.
Mr. Stoller?
Affirmative.
Mayor Sakamandy?
Yes. All right. Ordinance 2743-26. Councilman Stoller, you are scheduled to sponsor.
Thank you. I would like to present an ordinance entitled ordinance number 2743-26, an ordinance of the Township of Milburn, County of Essex, authorizing the Township of Milburn to execute an easement agreement granting an easement and a right of way on real property located at 14 Heron Circle, Milburn, New Jersey 07078.
No.
Yeah.
Thanks.
07041.
I'm 041. This ordinance is for the purchase of an existing easement and purchase of a small portion of further property at 14 Heron Circle. The easement on this property is necessary to facilitate several improvements at the Gilbert Place pump station. This piece of critical stormwater management infrastructure provides pre and post storm mitigation for the South Mountain area of the township. The pump station needs new electrical components, permanent backup power, and additional pump for the purpose of redundancy and increased capacity. This ordinance will facilitate the easement of real estate that is needed to bring these extensive changes to fruition. The ordinance will ensure the township can pursue this important flood-related project. I move that this ordinance be taken up and passed on first reading, and that the township clerk be authorized to have the ordinance posted in accordance with law of Milburn Township Public Notices page and for hearing and final passage on Tuesday, April 7th, 2026.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cosgrove?
Yes.
Mr. Ceruto?
Yes.
Mr. Stoller?
Affirmative.
Mayor Sakamandy?
Yes.
Thank you.
Right. Ordinance 2737-26. We're going to be adjourning the public hearing on this until the April 7th committee meeting. I would like to make a motion to adjourn the public hearing in consideration of adoption of ordinance 2737-26 titled Ordinance Creating a Long-Term Strategic Planning Advisory Committee and adding section 2-39 to the Milburn Township Code to Tuesday, April 7th, 2026. Milburn Township Committee meeting beginning at 7 p.m. at the Milburn Education Center located at 434 Milburn Avenue, Milburn, at which time the public hearing is scheduled, seeing there was an administrative error with adequately posting the notice. This hereby serves as the official notice of the change of public hearing date to April 7th Township Committee meeting, and the ordinance will be posted in accordance with law on the Milburn Township Public Notices page. May I have a second, please?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cosgrove?
Yes.
Mr. Ceruto?
Yes.
Mr. Stoller?
Affirmative.
Mayor Sakamandy?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Ordinance 2738-26. We're going to be adjourning this one as well. I would like to make a motion to adjourn the public hearing and consideration of adoption of ordinance 2737-26 titled Ordinance repealing resolution 20-35 permanently disbanding and dissolving CETA and creating section 2-40 of the Milburn Township Code and creating the Cultural Diversity Committee. The Tuesday, April 7th, 2026, Milburn Township Committee meeting beginning at 7 p.m. at the Milburn Education Center located at 434 Milburn Avenue, Milburn, at which time the public hearing is scheduled. Seeing there was an administrative error, adequately posting the notice, this hereby serves the official notice of the change of public hearing date to April 7th, Township Committee meeting, and the calendar will be posted in accordance with law in the Milburn Township notices page. May I have a second, please?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cosgrove?
Yes.
Mr. Ceruto?
Yes.
Mr. Stoller?
Affirmative.
Mayor Sakamandy?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, we have nothing on for old business, so we'll move directly to new business. First item under new business is historic preservation and design guidelines update. So I'm gonna give a little background on this. As we've been going through the HPC designation process, over the past, few months, we've identified that our HPC guidelines, which is what our HPC uses, well, it's partially what they use as a basis for rendering their decisions. It also serves to allow architects and homeowners to see what the guidelines are for properties in historic districts. The ones that we have are really out of date. And that really stems from the fact that the state regulations are out of date. So for instance, I think our existing design guidelines may have led some people to believe that if you had a slate roof, that you would have to replace it in kind. Well, that's not true. Now there's modern materials that look like slate that can be used instead. So there's a lot of little things that need to be updated. And so the idea is to have Barton Ross, our HPC professional, go and finish a process they already started. Basically, there's some draft guidelines that they have, but they need to be formalized. It's going to take about 2 to 3 weeks of his time. And, we wanted to make sure there's consensus on the committee to move this forward, because of course it's going to cost a little bit to have our professional do it. But I think that this will be a huge benefit for the homeowners, of those that live in districts, and also, anyone, in town that might be, considering designating their home, et cetera, et cetera. So open it up pretty soon.
I would, being that I do live in the historical themed home, I'd love to see those new changes made and what they entail. And I'm probably the only one I heard was that 0741 and 0778 zip code, so I made that mistake, I apologize. But I'd love to see it and see where it goes.
Sure.
I'd also be interested in that. I'd love to see it expanded to the entire town, not just the historic
Yeah,
at some point.
I agree. I think we've talked about doing design guidelines townwide. And I think for that, we probably will want to convene a committee that has, members of zoning code examination committee, maybe HPC, planning board, et cetera, our town planner. So that's something that I think, if there's consensus for, we can look into doing. But that's sort of separate and apart from the HPC design guidelines. So if that's something that all of you are in favor of, we can get all rolling on that in the background.
And that would just be an ad hoc committee.
Essentially.
Yeah. Fully supportive.
Good. That's just on that. All right.
Unless-
Next up, solicitation of volunteer interest forms. So basically, what this is about is we know that at the next meeting, we have 2 committees that are gonna be voted on, and I imagine the votes are gonna pass them. And so we wanna put the VIF form out, and we wanna start advertising that there's gonna be openings, obviously pending, the vote. So that way, anyone that wants to apply to be on the new CDC committee or on the strategic planning committee has, extra time to show their interest, submit their VIC form, send, emails or letters to the TC showing their interest. That way we can get these committees populated right away. And as I said earlier, with regards to the CDC, we plan on putting anyone that was on the old CETA committee onto the CDC. We're not going to be excluding anyone. We will be picking the leadership of that committee, but we will not be excluding anyone from the committee itself. So I just wanted to make sure that there was consensus for us to go ahead and have Township start advertising, that those spots are gonna be available and people should apply if they're interested.
Listen, what makes our community are the people, and to have more opportunities to volunteer, absolutely.
Yep, fully support that.
Great. Consensus, all right. We will get on that. Next up is final public comment. Public comment period is to allow for final comments from the community. When invited to speak, offer your comments, please come to the lectern, clearly state your name and whether you are a Milburn resident and or property or business owner. Please do not provide your full address because our meetings are recorded and are readily available to the public. A reminder that in order to help facilitate an orderly meeting and to permit all to be heard, speakers shall limit their comments to 1 3-minute session. I now open the public comment.
I'm Charles McMara, I'm a resident of Short Hills. I want to finish my comments on the turf field. Some topics that we didn't discuss in enough detail, I feel, but we talked about the fields being wet, but in the dry summer months, those fields also need to be watered if they're natural grass fields. And what will you do with an engineered turf field when an insect or fungal infestation happens? What will you do when the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium levels or the soil nutrients drop? What will you do when the weeds outgrow the grass? You'll put down chemicals. 50% of those chemicals will stay in the soil, 50% of them will leach off into the Van Winkle Brook, which is 200 feet away. So when we talk about environmental concerns, let's talk about environmental concerns, not just one little piece of it. It's ironic that the same person that opposed gas-powered lawn tools last year now is in favor of a solution that requires the permanent use of gas-powered lawn tools to maintain the fields. So there's got to be some consistency in messaging. So to that, I say, don't stop at the high school fields. Gilroy Park should be next. A totally different subject. I was traveling. I've been going to physical therapy for my knee every Monday, Wednesday, Friday morning to the center behind the in that part of town. I passed by the Annie Says property traveling westbound on Milburn Avenue. And when I make the right-hand turn onto Essex at the Fort there, there's been at least 3 mornings where as soon as I make that turn, the construction people in the right-hand lane, blocking the right-hand lane, there was a water truck one day, there was another truck making a lumber delivery, blocking the right lane. There was no flagman there. There was no notification of the police department to let them know, to warn oncoming traffic that the minute you turn and make a right turn, your lane is gone. So it's a safety issue there. It's not the first time I've cited a safety issue at that place, but somebody needs to be paying attention to the safety at that site. I talked to Alex about the crane reaching over the power lines without a fire watch, and he responded right away and had a policeman stationed there to say within an hour. So thank you for that. There's a deficit of safety at that site.
Jeffrey Feld, first, in interest of unity, I want to wish everyone who could be celebrating various holidays in the interim until we meet. I think part of our community celebrated Holi recently. There'll be a feast breaking Ramadan. Many of us will be celebrating Passover, and many will be celebrating Easter. I'm a blended family. It's very important that we remember the escape from slavery into freedom, the importance of the rule of law, humility of Moses, and the life of a dissident rabbi who was executed by the Romans, and also the sale of someone's soul for pieces of silver. I request that you said that there's gonna be a pedestrian meeting at the library at 6:30 on April 13th. If you could maybe postpone it or push it back to 7, because I know one commuter, that being my wife, gets off the train at 6:25. And that she, I think, would be very interested of the pedestrian safety of that parking lot. As to agreements, I think you amended the joint use agreement by you putting conditions on, you saying that nothing will be issued until you get an engineering report. When you looked at the joint use agreement, which was never really attached to the original approval resolution or posted, you didn't have any conditions. So I just asked like the attorney to look, can you, because I think you just told the town that you will not issue any bonds until we receive this engineering report, but I think that might have to be in writing in some type of document and just something to look at. Also, the exhibit A's to the 2 ordinances about the easements and sale, I just asked that they be attached for the next agenda packet so we know what the monetary terms are. We heard about consistency in messaging. We heard about killing a fly with a hammer. When we encounter a problem, we cure it. Look at the SID. Are you, what you just said, inconsistent with what's happened in the last 5, 6 years? How have you treated certain plaintiffs? Have you tried to kill a fly with a hammer? Have you admitted that there were problems, structural problems, but you haven't cured it? Again, everyone who's going to be celebrating the holidays, I wish you and your family the best.
Good evening, Phil Kirsch, Milburn resident. I had a question about these 2 ordinances that have been postponed, are both for advisory committees. One of them has the township committee appointing the officers. The other one has them elected by the members. I think, I'm not sure, but I think that most, if not all, the committees have the officers elected by the members. I'd just like a very clear answer on why, in the case of the CDC, in this ordinance, you're going to appoint the officers. What's the difference in nature? What's the motive for that? If you could answer that. I also felt that the controversy about the turf fields, I find similar to the controversy about the ban on gas-powered leaf blowers. Just in that we had very strong feelings on both sides. We had people looking at different facts or looking at facts, interpreting them differently. So you really had things that, very strong emotions. However, I think in both of these, I think, one side like won out or got their argument made official, in one of these, and it looks like, and it's gonna happen again with one side on the other one. That's the way that works. So a lot of science involved, a lot of detail, which I wouldn't pretend to have any expertise on. But I don't think, again, I think that people on both sides in both of these were sincere. So I really didn't like to hear from up here in the committee the implication that there was some other kind of motive, that there was inconsistencies. Why did the Environmental Commission do that? Why did Bill Brazell was inconsistent on this? I think that really that doesn't show respect for the citizens putting in their time. I heard the same thing from the mayor when the way he referred to the chair of CETA as a self-appointed person, very much that you were trying to imply that she had some motive, got total control and be a king, that it was insincere. And I don't think it was insincere, but you did this. And I think that Committeeman Stoller and Sacramento, you both have strong principles, you feel them very strongly, you get emotional, but I think you need to pull it back a little bit. And as members up there on the dais, set an example, show more respect for the people out here and for their motives. But I would like a very clear, simple answer on this, on the difference in the appointment of members on these 2 committees and how that's done as a general rule. I think that'd be very easy to answer me this evening. Thank you.
Good evening, Jerry Kung, Short Hills resident. As usual, I had not planned to make a statement, but Mr. Kirsch, urged me to speak up. So, just a point about the self-appointed chair. If you're taking umbrage by the fact that the mayor is using the term self-anointed chair, I believe that's a factual adjective. Given that the first reorganization meeting of CETA this year, I don't think there was an actual election of the chair. And I believe, because I was there in person, and you can watch the recording, that there was a person that was acting as the de facto chair. So if you wanna talk about emotion, let's talk about facts. I think that the term self-anointed chair is appropriate. Thank you.
Jean Pasternak, resident. I just want to make one other comment, related to what a few people here have said. I really commend this township committee for keeping the doors open to anybody qualified that wants to serve on a committee. That is so different than what happened for at least the 5 or 6 years that I've been following this, township committee. I myself have really wanted to serve and been turned away every single time I've applied to be on a committee until just this year. So I think we have to be honest, intellectually honest about what did take place in the past and why sometimes we are where we are. It's not about partisanship, it's not about politics, it's about just being honest and inclusive and letting people serve who really want to, if they have the qualifications. And the second thing I wanted to say is, we had such a really good start to this year. I felt like this committee has been working in a bipartisan way. I felt in my role as the Republican chair worked well with the Democratic chair on this ICE thing that we did. But all of a sudden, it's all wiped out over what? Over something that is falsely being called political. And I really do hope that we can return to where we started this year with all of us. Thank you.
Christine Best, Milburn Township. Dave, I wanna thank you so much for that suggestion on adding design guidelines across all the housing stock in the town. I've been a big supporter of that. And I think that that will preserve this town as an elegant, beautiful place, and it doesn't have to be, like an HOA moment in any way whatsoever, but it's getting a little out of control with some of the road design. And so thank you for thinking about that, and when my health is a little bit better, I would love to be part of that. And then I also the historic preservation design guidelines, I've been hearing a little bit about it and just commenting, not as a member, but as township resident, I'm very excited about that, because the HPC really does a great job of actually working with the homeowners and coming up with alternative ideas, and I think putting it on paper will make people, as you said, Frank, much more confident about owning a house in the historic preservation area. And actually your housing value is more valuable if you own one in historic preservation. I also wanted to just talk quickly, there was a lot of intense heat, and I'm not out to put anything on any single person or organization, but one of the things that I want to talk about is I see a lot of usage of communities for political play. This is what I see. I don't care what other people's opinions are, but with the 215-year-old, what I saw, I looked at as many tiles as I could see on the Facebook page, and I saw what appeared to be a lot of groups eliminated. So if you're gonna play in that world of inclusivity, you need to understand what the definition of that means. And so I don't see any ode to the historic Indians. We have a ton of street names after different Indian tribes in this township. None of that, I don't think, I might be wrong, is in there. But also, I saw not a lot, there was a lot of Protestant groups that founded that. Protestants actually probably 0.001%. There was no ode to people who are interfaith. There's actually a lot of interfaith and intercultural marriages in this town. That is why I moved to this town. My husband's Jewish and I'm Christian. I didn't see a call out like that. So, and also the Black community, which is, a founding community in this country, wasn't called out originally. And I'm not trying to, but if we're gonna play in that world, you've gotta do your homework and you gotta make sure everybody's included. And so that's really important to me. And I also think that there's a lot of groups that are very inclusive that are, newer immigrants to this town or second generation, and I want to call them out because I feel really included by the Chinese Association because they put on these great events, they market it out to everybody, and it's really exciting, and they do it on their own without the government getting involved, and I really love that, about that, and the same goes for the I just went to a Black Heritage event, which was awesome, and I felt really welcome, and also the Desi Club, so for me, yes, my time's up, bye. Thank you.
This is Venkat Bala. I would like to thank the committee for passing the resolution on the turf. And most importantly, I would like to read out what Professor Emmanuel Kant had said, that you're looking for the perfect utopia, which he said will never arrive. There is progress, undeniably so, and with each step, there is going to be some dissent associated with that. And we are welcoming that dissent and we have that open discussion. I do find that some people have the shoes switched from one leg to another. They find it like discomfort to what they are used to. But we are looking forward to working together across the aisle, across the party lines, so that we do what is best for our neighborhood and for our town. And that we see in the leadership of our mayor and deputy mayor as well, who are representing two different parties, but they're working towards moving the ball forward so that we are able to meet meaningful solution rather than have roadblocks. I would also give a shout out to the DPW crew. So this winter storm since December 15 through like most recent times has been very severe, but there was not even one time where the roads were not plowed or there were any complaints associated with it. The crew were always present there. They had salted the roads, they had cleared the roads so that we could continue with our day-to-day life and activities. And there was only probably one day where the garbage was not picked up, and that was because of a snowstorm and the emergency that was declared by the state. But on the whole, it is kudos to the DPW team as well. Thank you.
Al Carlin, president, 30-something years. Different subject, affordable housing. We talk about that, and everyone in the state seems to be talking about that. Could we invite the commissioner of DCA to come to Milburn, explain what's going to be happening in the new administration concerning affordable housing? Named, I believe, is Jacqueline Suarez. She has more than 1,000 people working for her. She has a huge plate, over $1 billion in her budget. And why not? I mean, Milburn is a township, and we have we're very interested in affordable housing. I don't believe she's been here to speak to the residents. Someone might invite her. Why not speak? We have more and more apartment buildings, multiple dwelling units coming into town. We have to get involved more or less concerning our taxes. Well, everyone's taxes. Everyone's concerned about the safety, the schools. Her name is, she's an attorney. We have an attorney here. Ask some questions. What's going to be happening? The governor, she reappointed her. What's going to be happening there? I think it's important. Building, a number of other things like that. I'm a first generation. My father was born in Ukraine, tried to get into the United States, couldn't make it, had to go through Canada before he came here. He could never become a citizen because it said Russia on his documentation, so he wasn't a good American. I became a citizen because I was born here. Things like that. And I did have a security clearance after 3 tries with the FBI. But things like this do happen. So I do understand about this. Thank you very much. Oh, I have 20 seconds for people safety across Milburn Avenue. Yes, people have almost gotten killed, and I can see the building every single day and all of the violations of people making incorrect turns. And that is an important item here. Going across the sidewalk is not there. That's fine. Have a great day.
If anyone online? Well.
Hi, good evening again. This is Vinita Gangwal, resident of Deerfield Section and member of Melbourne for Climate Action. I feel compelled here to make a second statement tonight after hearing, frankly, a lot of disparaging comments from people on the dais here about members of this community, members of Melbourne for Climate Action Group, as well as Melbourne Environmental Commission. So I want to set the record straight. The issue here tonight is not whether artificial turf is the right solution or whether we should go ahead with this project or not. That was not the question being asked by Melbourne for Climate Action Group. Repeatedly over last 2 months, there were 3 letters sent to Melbourne Township Committee and BOE requesting more information about how did the bodies here come to this decision that artificial turf is the right answer. Because the only publicly available information was a 2024 feasibility study, which was narrowly scoped to answer a simple question: can the field be converted to artificial turf? It never asked if that's the right answer. It never asked if, due to flooding concerns, artificial turfs would serve the purpose that we are looking for. It never did any of that. Then there were 2 presentations by the rec department, which essentially just talk about the deficit of playable hours and how we are trying to solve for that. Acknowledging the concern about playable hours, every single outreach that was done by Melbourne for Climate Action started by applauding the BOE and TC to working together to solve this long-standing problem. We came with the spirit of collaboration, and we only asked the questions that a community deserves in this kind of a project with $7.5 to $8 million of capital investment, 30 years commitment of public lands to something which is an irreversible decision. So I really find it extremely insulting that after all these efforts to reach out to you privately through a letter signed by Melbourne Climate Action members, privately sent to all the BOE and Rec Department and TC members, you are here disparaging us and telling us that we are essentially trying to create an issue where there is none. The issue here is the lack of transparency. The issue here is that a decision was made to convert to artificial turf without a proper analysis, without really divulging all the information to the public. And now some corrective actions are being taken, but that really came in response to all the public pressure which was being put on you. And I will also tell you is that now you are committing to all these hybrid solutions, which I welcome as a person who really takes environmental concerns very seriously. But what about the people in this town who don't really want to spend too much money on this project? Have you come out with an analysis on how much is this hybrid solution is going to cost? Right? Is there transparency about this project even today? There is not. I know people want this and we are all supportive. The only thing that was being asked was be transparent, do an analysis, and you cannot really be transparent if you haven't done the analysis. And I'm sorry to say you haven't done that yet. Thank you.
Anyone else online? Nobody. Anyone else from the audience? Last chance. All right, now closed public comment. Going to begin with responses. Mr. Bambera, I think you raised some really excellent points about the environmental concerns that have not been talked about, that come along with natural turf, certainly fertilizers, pesticides, et cetera. Yeah, that stuff's gonna wash right into the Van Winkle Brook. You don't have that problem with yeah, you might have, some potential microplastics here or there, but as someone pointed out earlier tonight, microplastics are generally more of a problem when you're eating them, than when eating our turf. So I also thought it was an excellent point that, it's interesting that those that came out so emphatically in favor of the seasonal restriction on the gas-powered leaf blowers seem to be the ones now that are arguing for a surface that requires more gas-powered lawn maintaining. Really would be interesting if someone did the calculation and looked at the amount of CO2 and pollutants that came out of those lawnmowers that would be needed for a natural turf surface versus the pollutants emitted by a synthetic surface. So if someone wants to do that analysis, that'd be very interesting. With regards to Annie says and the safety, we actually are gonna be engaging with the police department to look at pedestrian safety. When the project was originally conceived, police department had taken a look at it and figured out, okay, this would be, the best way for pedestrians to get from point A to point B safely. And we're gonna have them look at that again and make sure that's still relevant. We certainly had a lot of complaints from people about sidewalks being closed and, I think tonight you brought up an issue of, lanes being blocked, et cetera. So that's something we're gonna look at with the police department. Let's see, Mr. Feld, you wanna know the reason that we can't quote unquote cure the SID? Well, we had come up with a solution to reform the SID. But due to ongoing litigation, by you and your client, we felt that it was not in the best interest of the township to continue to expose ourselves to further litigation by making any changes to the SID. Because if we were to dissolve and recreate the SID with new, with new rules and with a tiered structure, et cetera, then that would allow someone to go and file a lawsuit challenging that new ordinance. And, I don't think we want to have a repeat of what we've seen over the past few years. So, the offer still stands. We made a settlement offer to, your client, Mr. Feld. And if they would like to revisit that and we can come to some sort of settlement, then we can re-examine, making the modifications to the SID that we had talked about. Mr. Kirsch, you asked why some committees have their leaders appointed by the TC while others vote for their own. I think that someone brought this up earlier in their comment. They said that willful neglect requires a deeper remedy. I think that's exactly what's going on here. We've seen that a committee has been operating with a self-anointed chair, and I say that because that is a factual statement. The current chair made themselves the chair. We have no records of that chair ever being voted in by any other members. You know why? They never took minutes at any of the meetings. There is no official record that shows. And from the other people that I talked to on the committee, none of them could tell me of a time when there was a proper reorganization. So maybe one occurred, we don't know because we don't have records of it, right? Therein lies the problem. Problem is we had a committee operating in a rogue fashion. They weren't keeping records. They weren't doing proper reorg. They were excluding, whether it was on purpose or not, they were excluding people from this tile project that we have. They were excluding groups from this tile project. And so when we encounter something with structural issues like that, we're going to take corrective action. And our corrective action was to rip it out and replace it. We're going to maybe build back better in this case, right? So that's exactly what we're doing. And because the former committee has proven itself incapable of properly electing their leadership, we will, as a TC, appoint the leadership. And that's how we're gonna deal with this particular situation. Let's see. Dr. Kung, again, thank you for pointing out semantics and the factual nature of the self-anointed chair. Let's see. Pasternak, I agree. I think in the past that prior township committees have excluded certain people, including yourself, from committees. I certainly saw that myself. And, when Ben and I were first elected and we got on this dais, we worked hard to fight for diversity on our committees, not just diversity amongst cultures and races and ethnicities, but also political diversity. We wanted everyone that really wanted to volunteer that had the proper qualifications to be able to take part in our various committees. And I think we've done a fantastic job over the past few years of making our committees more inclusive, of having more diversity on our committees, and we're going to continue to do that. So that's why I'm really looking forward to our next meeting when we finally solidify this new cultural diversity committee and welcome anyone that wants to join. Let's see. Mr. Carlin, I don't know that we would need to talk to the commissioner of the DCA, especially since we've been involved in litigation, sort of on the other side of the state on this issue. But what I can say is we know what's happening in the fourth round of affordable housing because we did the plan. And we did the plan with community input. We did the plan with input from all the various, land use boards and committees. It was a completely open and transparent process, and we know exactly what we're gonna get. And we have followed all the steps that are required. We didn't miss any deadlines. And we know what the next 10 years is gonna look like, unless the state throws a curveball at us and changes the law, right? That could always happen. But for now, we know exactly what the fourth round is gonna look like, and we're very proud of the plan that we put forward. Ms. Greenwald, I understand the question the Millbrook Climate Action Group is asking. It's interesting because they've asked a number of different questions, and the questions seem to change when we put out new information. Then there seems to be something else that you guys want to know about, and that's fine. Questions are always good and questions are welcome. But the suggestion that we, sort of stop the process and, have another, independent body come in and do an assessment, I think that's not necessary. The original assessment that was done by the DOE, it was done by an independent outside third party. And I believe that one of the reasons that they didn't bother to look at the natural grass at that time is because it didn't meet the simple criteria, but it didn't meet the playable hours that was gonna be required. Now, I'm an engineer, and when I approach an engineering problem, the first thing I do is I start with the requirements. I get the requirements, and then I look at various products and services and solutions that'll meet those requirements. And if one of the paramount requirements is to increase the number of playing hours to over 60 hours per week, the natural grass surface and even the engineered natural grass surfaces don't meet that requirement. So therefore, why would we continue to consider them when they don't meet the requirement? Whereas the synthetic materials do meet that requirement. We will be able to achieve the goal of increased playing hours over 60 per week if we use a synthetic material. Now, I think we have to, do our research and figure out which synthetic material makes the most sense. But after talking to after having the town talk to the people at Rutgers that Millbrook Climate Action encouraged us to talk to, I think we've got a pretty clear indication that even a engineered natural turf solution is not going to make sense. But in the interest of exploring all options, we are working on speaking to the other two companies that were mentioned. We'll see what they have to say, but all the research and studies I can find say that the natural grass, even if it's an engineered solution, is not going to meet the requirements. So I don't think we need to do another study. I think we've been open and transparent about that. Furthermore, we're not necessarily considering a hybrid solution. I think the solutions we're leaning towards now are fully synthetic. Some have infill, some have more natural infill. I don't know that the hybrid option makes the most sense, but the engineers will look at that during the engineering phase. All right, does anyone else have?
Sure, thank you, Frank. And well put on the fields. Mr. Kirsch, I do have a passion for a lot of things that I'm doing up here. And it's because I've lived a long time in this town. I've raised 4 kids here. My youngest is a freshman. And me sitting up here doing this work, I'm not at my daughter who's practicing on a muddy field behind the high school right now for flag football. Well, not right now at 10:13, but when we started. I always appreciate your advice. I take it to heart. It's very good advice. You and Mr. Carlin have lived more years and have a lot of miles under you. So I appreciate everything you say. I do take it to heart. That being said, you're not privy to a lot of things that happen outside of this room, and some of the, I don't want to call it arm twisting and strong arm and tactics and things to get things pushed through, but they do occur, and sometimes it boils up. That being said, it does seem that every time we go through these analysis, that it's changing using AI at the speed of light. It really is from some of the submissions we're getting. I've been working at this since the day I was won this seat, working towards helping us get a solution to this lack of playability. We've done the work. We've spoken to people. I've spoken to a lot of different companies. I've gone out to Mount Clair and walked that field with the no infill option, with the 12 to 15 month lifespan, with the same maintenance cost as infill turf and grass. And I think
15-year lifespan.
I'm sorry, 15-year lifespan, correct. And as we look at this, we've done the work, we've rolled up our sleeves, and we're comfortable with the process going forward. And it really is, and Mr. Bambera was up there, I think he meant to say that the same people that were for the gas power blower restriction are now for use of gas power blowers. It really does beg the question of what's going on and what are the motives behind it. That being said, I heard your point. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Mr. Kirsch. Mr. Bala Venkat, I agree 100% with the great job, the yeoman's job that our DPW did during this rough patch. I think we had 30 some odd days of sub freezing weather. It was crazy. And lastly, I'll bring this up. The New Jersey Transit tunnel project actually is completed. Although there was a fire on the tracks yesterday. On the bridge. That's the whole. But I will be taking the train tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. and I'll let you guys know how that goes. Thanks.
Yeah, I'll just comment. I want to just add on the praise for the Department of Public Works and the amazing first responders we have in the community. Appreciate everybody's engagement. Look, I'm not opposed to bringing in the commissioner. I'd like to have her sit on, do a drive around town and see the monstrosities that we have and see the pedestrians trying to cross the street. And so maybe we can try to set something up.
Why don't we reach out?
We'll see if we can reach out
If they'll be
because
amenable, because I would certainly be happy to get that individual up here.
I'd like to
answer the community's questions.
Yeah, if we could do a Q&A and do a tour, and honestly, I wish we had, what is it called, virtual reality. You could see what it looked like and now what it looks like today. So, that's it for me. And I mean, Milburn Avenue, the trucks, Andy says, I think what Mr. Carlin was referring to. Yeah, I think we should, we gotta just take a look at that. I like that frame, build back better. Where have we heard that before?
Thank you, Mayor Costa.
Nothing further, thank you.
Administrator McDonald.
Just one comment on the trucks. Obviously, if you see a condition like that, I would encourage you to call the police department non-emergency number so that we can have somebody go out there and address it right away.
Pretty good.
I'm not happy for Mayor.
In that case, motion to adjourn.
Motion.